We have come here to chew bubblegum and talk about the first Simpsons tie-in game released for home consoles. And we're all out of bubblegum. Mama don't like tattletales. It's time to talk Bart versus the Space Mutants. Welcome in to episode 2, for real this time, of Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, a Simpsons gaming podcast that looks at the highs and lows of the Simpsons tie-in video games with a sprinkle of history here and there. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy.
And I'm your other host, Derek, and that Bart Simpson creature has become a major pain in the hooga.
I forgot all about that fucking line. Holy
what does that even mean?
Shit. Oh my God, Derek. Uh-huh. Oh boy. What do we even say? How do we start this episode? Other than the really silly two ways that we just did.
Yeah. What do you mean episode 2 for real this time? I feel like you need to clarify that because most people, I wouldn't have even caught the mistake that you made because I didn't even catch the mistake.
I caught it. We called the last episode 2 when it was truly episode 1 because we did an episode 0, which was actually our first episode. And so I said episode 2 on our first episode, which was actually not episode 2, episode 1. So this is actually episode 2, but it's our third episode.
Cool.
And we opened it with a They Live reference. Which
a movie that you've seen a million times, right? One of your favorite movies
I've seen,
that you love so much.
It's one of my favorite movies, yeah. No, I have no idea about that movie. And in fact, weird. I'm going to rely on you, Derek, to tell me how this game that we're covering today pays homage to that movie.
I mean...
Or if it does.
There's sunglasses and aliens. That's pretty much where it stops. That's
fine. It, right?
That's a good movie. I do think you would enjoy it, actually. I'm surprised.
I actually do want to watch it.
That's one of those movies that I'm like surprised you didn't just like watch when you were a kid, honestly. It's that kind of movie. But that's a fun movie.
Maybe I did because I've talked about this before, but my family was like super into wrestling and it stars Rowdy Piper. And he was a fave of ours. So I'm going to have to check it out if only for him, because as I note in the outline a little bit later on, he is a true American hero, at least to me.
Keith David's in it too, and he's great. So
yeah. Well, we're not here to talk about They Live, maybe just a little bit. Today, we're actually talking about a video game that's equal parts frustrating to play by modern standards, edging on interesting by classic standards in some respects, and haphazardly thrown together because of early video game crunch. It is the second game in the Simpsons gaming pantheon, 1991's Bart Simpson versus the Space Mutants, originally released for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Yes. And I thought to kick things off, we opened our last episode, the arcade episode, talking about our history with arcades. I don't want to talk about our history with NES because I feel like that's silly. But I do want to ask, Derek, do you have or do you remember the first platformer that you ever played? Do you remember what that was? Or alternatively, if you don't remember that, what about your first NES game?
Same thing. Super Mario Brothers, original one.
Yeah.
We had Super Mario. Yeah. We had the Super Mario Brothers / Duck Hunt cartridge, and we also had Double Dribble, were like the 3 NES games that I remember having that were like the initial
Double
ones.
Dribble.
Yeah.
I forgot about Double Dribble.
Double Dribble. I remember that's how it sounds at the beginning. And then you get the national anthem. Yeah, it was the original Super Mario, and it's good. And I played the shit out of that game. Like, who didn't?
Yeah. I mean, of course, I feel like anybody playing games around this time had to have played the original Super Mario Bros. Do you have a favorite platformer? I know you mentioned before that you don't particularly like platformers. Is there one that you kind of gravitate towards?
I mean, other than the original Super Mario Brothers, I mean, I guess we had this conversation. Super Mario Advance, whatever Super Mario Advance was.
That's right.
I like Super Mario Advance, but then the game it's based on, Super Mario. Is it Super Mario World? Super
World
Mario,
is
no, sorry, Super Mario Advance 2, which is Super Mario World. So I like Super Mario World. I think that's my favorite platformer, probably.
Yeah.
Of all time, I guess. From there, I mean, I guess I like the original Spyro trilogy a lot too. That's like, more modern PlayStation platformer, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that 100% is that is like this. I wouldn't know how to define it, even though one of the references for this outline, or this episode rather, is a 5-hour long video titled "The History of Video Games." I wouldn't know how to title the specific eras of video games, but I would say that the PlayStation / that era of platformers is kind of like a renaissance of platformers, because you get like Crash Bandicoot, you get Spyro, you get Super Mario 64. Like, it really is a renaissance kind of in that time. But I mean, for me, I think I actually don't know if I played Super Mario Bros. First, or if like Sonic. For some reason, I feel like I played Sonic before Super Mario Bros. I mentioned this before, but my grandparents had an NES at their house, and so we would play that when we would go over there. So there's a chance that like I might have played Sonic before that, when we got like a Genesis.
Sure.
But either way, I think my two favorite platformers are, and I think I mentioned this before, Super Mario 3, which is on my
that's very high for me. I really liked Super Mario 3 a lot. I mean, who doesn't?
It's as close. I think it's on my list of like as close to perfect games as like gets. Like, it's not a perfect game, but like for what it is.
Isn't it? I feel like you could argue that it is.
I guess you probably could, honestly. Like I'm sure there's something about it that is like not perfect. Like, I'm sure there is like some level of flaw to it, but for what it's trying to achieve, it's pretty perfect.
Yeah.
And then I think this is close to cheating, but also I think one of my newer favorites is Hollow Knight, which I think we talked about in our episode 0 as well. It actually won a Best Platformer award the year it was released, but I don't know if you could. It's a Metroidvania, so it's hard to kind of qualify that as purely a platformer. But I mean, I think it still fits. So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Castlevania Metroid games are also kind of platformers too, in a way, right? Like,
the genres are like so broad and overlapping that it doesn't really matter. And even this game that we're going to talk about today, the genre is a little, we'll say, mercurial. I mean, it's a platformer.
More complicated than I would have ever expected a game like this to be, though. Like, there's like
I totally agree.
Not RPG elements, but like something like that. I don't know what it is, but there's something like that.
So I have this later on to talk about, but I was actually watching a video of folks who played through like every Acclaim game on the NES. I have them later on, so I'll shout them out when we get to it. But they called it, and I have a quote from them. They were like, it is a platformer with adventure, like point and click elements.
Oh yes, no, that's exactly what it is. That is what it is. 1000%.
It makes so much sense. Like, once they said that, I was like, holy shit, it really is.
I actually think, I know we will eventually talk about this game more in depth, but I think that like what you saying that clicks it so much into place for me, because I think that this game would make if you literally could use a mouse to point and click in this game, it would improve it exponentially, actually, I think.
Oh, there's a lot of things that would improve this game exponentially. I agree.
But I think at the base level, what it's trying to do, it almost feels like it was built more to be a point-and-click game from the get-go. First, I think the most innovative things about it, I guess, as innovative as you can be, the most innovative things about it are things that are like, if it was a point-and-click game, it would have actually maybe worked much better, or at all.
And I think the only thing I would say to that, I think, yes, it would 100% work. I think it would have to be a lot tighter on the Simpsons element, like on the Simpson element of it.
Yeah.
For it to really even to work that way, because I think the biggest through line that carries this is the fact that you're playing as Bart. Like, truly, like, there's a lot of Simpsons references in this game, but outside of the Simpsons references, it is a game that is really not parodying is the wrong word, but it is paying homage to a film that we mentioned at the top, and also like in universe references as well, like the Space Mutants movies.
Yeah.
But like, outside of that, there's a lot of stuff once you get past the first level that does not feel like The Simpsons.
It's weird. The first level I feel like is very concentrated in it feeling like a Simpsons-y game. And I was sort of like, oh, this is interesting. This maybe is kind of like, at least in that regard, that's kind of what we're looking for with a Simpsons-y feeling game. And then it suddenly goes totally off the rails after that. And it just becomes just like surrealists in a lot of ways after that.
Yeah.
And in a way that just I don't quite like, it almost feels like two different games between the first level and everything that comes after the first level in some ways.
Well, I might have a little bit of information that will illuminate why that is a little bit later on. But first, I think to kick things off, so we started our arcade episode talking about the history of arcades, and I think people really liked that. So I thought, why not talk a little bit about the history of home game consoles, baby?
Hell yeah.
Magnavox presents Odyssey, the electronic game of the future. Odyssey easily attaches to any brand TV, black and white or color, to create a closed-circuit electronic playground. Odyssey gives you all the exciting action of hockey and 11 other challenging play and learning games for the entire family. Odyssey, a new dimension for your television, now at your Magnavox dealer. He's listed in the yellow pages.
Attention, shoppers. The new Atari cartridge game is in.
Excuse me.
Uh-oh. George again.
Ooh, Atari's ASCII battle. It comes with 27 games, but that's just for starters. You can get 9 cartridges, 187 games. Blackjack. Oh!
I'd like an Atari.
Sorry. Only our demonstrators left.
Mine!
No, George. Mine.
The new video computer system by Atari. More games, more fun.
Now where you been? You'll make the days roll on by, blasting bugs out of the sky. Well, you know deep down that it's gonna be a hummer, 'cause nobody's harder than Atari this summer. Nobody's harder than Atari this summer.
This summer, the really hot video games come from Atari. We've got Centipede, Ms. Pac-Man, Vanguard, and Galaxian. If you thought it was going to be just another summer, Atari is going to turn your head around.
The hot names, the hot games, the hot deals. Yeah, it's gonna be a hummer, 'cause nobody's harder than Atari this summer. Nobody's harder than Atari this summer. No.
What will the future bring from Nintendo? More hits like The Legend of Zelda. Sports hits like ice hockey. Nintendo has the most video game hits like Hogan's Alley and Donkey Kong Classics, and more like Excite Bike and RC Pro-Am. And you can play them only on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
There's a little bit of overlap between the history of arcades and the history of home game consoles. Notably that like the rise in popularity in home consoles at least contributed a little bit to the downfall of arcades, right? Like once people had games in their houses, there wasn't a whole lot of reason that you would need to go spend money at an arcade, especially because early game consoles were really expensive. Now that's not to say that like once game consoles came out, like arcades died. Like we covered like where the kind of rise and fall and like the roller coaster that happened. But I do think it is fair to say that it at least contributed to it, especially because there were also, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, there were ports of arcade games that were coming to homes, right? Like Atari made Pac-Man, you know, for home consoles.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the same way that as soon as you get home video, like that, no matter what, theaters would never be the same things that they ever were before. It's just, you know, it's just a matter of sort of finding balance in your industry once that becomes a thing. But like once the genie's out of the bottle, once people have access, like there's no going back, you know?
Right. Yeah, 100%. And I mean, especially once we get into the era, and we're not gonna talk about this today, but once you get into the like 16-bit and 32-bit era, I mean, those are essentially as powerful as arcades, right? Like you can't tell the difference at that point. Where we're starting, there's a huge difference. Like and oh boy, were there some ugly arcade ports. I already mentioned that Pac-Man port for Atari. Like they're awful. Before we get into like the main history, gonna quiz you, Derek, and I'm just gonna before I quiz you.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say, I'll give you what my original answer was before doing this research, because I had no idea either. So
okay.
I think people in our generation typically think of like the Atari and the NES as like the quote first home game consoles.
Uh-huh.
How many consoles do you think released worldwide prior to the NES, including the 2600? So there's a start there. And like I said, after you give your answer, I'll give what I thought, and then I'll give you the real answer.
Do things like I don't know, what was like Coleco and stuff, do those count, or are those
ColecoVision?
ColecoVision, like, does that that's not a computer, that was technically a console, right? Like
it was, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, so that counts.
And I feel like there's at least like maybe two others that are like sort of similar to that are basically like look like big old computers but are basically consoles. I'm gonna guess 6. I'm gonna say 6.
That's what my guess was too. My guess was 6.
Oh my God, you're gonna say like 14 or something.
You wish I was gonna say 14. The answer is either 25 or well over 900, depending on how you count.
Like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
So I'll talk about that. I'm bearing the lead a little bit. I'll talk about that discrepancy here in a second. So the first home game console that was like widely released was the Magnavox Odyssey. I don't know if you'd ever heard of that one before. I don't think I had either.
I've heard of Magnavox because they make TVs.
Magnavox,
right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Interesting.
So what was really interesting about the Odyssey was that it shipped with like, and you could just tell like initially they didn't know how the fuck to sell these like consoles.
What does your family do on those stay indoors rainy afternoons, or on those cold, blustery winter days? Families who are content to let television do its thing often find themselves at its mercy for a choice of entertainment, while people who want television to do their thing entertain themselves with Odyssey, the electronic game of the future, and the family's best foul-weather friend. Odyssey can be attached to any brand television receiver with a screen size of 18 to 25 inches, either black and white or color. And an ordinary screwdriver is the only tool needed to attach this Odyssey antenna game switch to the antenna terminals on the back of the television set. Once the antenna game switch is attached, you can select the TV position for regular television viewing, or the game position for playing your favorite Odyssey game. Odyssey is played through an unused VHF channel of your television set and operates on 6 common-size C-cell batteries which come packed with the unit. Simply connect the game cord to the antenna game switch on the back of the set and to the master control unit. And plug the player control unit cords into their respective sockets on the master unit. And your Odyssey is ready to begin entertaining your family. Each Odyssey game uses one of these special game cards, which plug into a slot at the front of the master control unit. The game cards activate lights on your television screen that bounce, float, or extinguish on contact, depending upon the particular game you've chosen to play. For example, to play Odyssey Tennis, you insert game card number 3 into the master unit. This activates 3 lights, 2 representing the players and 1 representing the ball. Press the special tennis game overlay into position on the television screen, and you're ready to begin an exciting, fast-paced tennis game. The horizontal knob on the left side of each player control unit allows you to move your player light in a left-to-right or right-to-left direction. The vertical knob on the right side of each player control unit lets you move your player light in an up and down direction. And the reset buttons on top of each player control unit bring the ball back into play should it happen to go off the court. After you've learned the basics of the game, you can increase the challenge of Odyssey Tennis by increasing or decreasing the speed of the tennis ball with a special speed control on the back of the master unit. And when you want to razzle-dazzle your opponent into submission, a special English control, which fits inside the horizontal knob, will make that tennis ball do everything but stand up and talk.
It shipped with like board game materials. I actually have a picture in our show outline. And anybody who's listening to this, by the way, I'll just note I've done extended show notes for the last episode, and I'll do extended show notes for this as well, which will have all of our sources and all the images and stuff that we're looking at. So if you want to look at them too, they are there. But it shipped with like fake money, poker chips, some cards, and then they had these like fucking plastic screens that you could put over your TV to like change what you saw.
What?
Like, and I have some images of them in here, and it's wild. Like,
what do you mean? What do you mean by plastic screens that change what you saw? Is that what I'm looking at here with the soccer field and stuff?
There's like soccer field. There's hockey, like a hockey rink, and then there's like numbers and shit.
Light up that? Like, I don't understand how that works.
Well, so I guess you would like put it on your screen somehow, and I guess a lot of those like the cathode, what are they, cathode ray TVs, like the CRT TVs, they would like. I guess they would just stick to it, or you would have to like clip it to it somehow, and then the backlighting from the screen would light up what you're seeing.
I guess it makes sense. It's just interesting. Okay.
What's funny about it is like a lot of them are like sports related, and part of that is because the big seller at this time was just Pong, right? Like, so
I'm sure, of course.
You're playing Pong on these, but then you have like these like hockey dudes that are like overlaid on the screen, so it looks like you're playing a hockey game instead of just Pong.
I see. That's actually really clever. Like, isn't
it?
That's like a really innovative workaround, rather like when you aren't able to have like, made more complex graphics yet. That's really cool.
I actually really like that. I think it's really clever. And actually I found these screens. Someone was selling them on eBay. It's currently close to like $600 to get like all of these. And the seller had listed what was included, and so it was like Simon Says, skis, volleyball, wipeout, submarines, tennis, analogical, which I think is the numbers, soccer, and then hockey.
Really cool.
And again, I really just wanted to talk about this because I think again, a lot of people incorrectly think that like the 2600 was the first console. I know I did. Like I really did for a long time.
Yeah.
But the Odyssey actually beat it by like 6 years. So like the Magnavox Odyssey was out well before the Atari 2600.
Do you think the Atari is known as the sort of the quote unquote first one because maybe that was the first one that was suddenly like more accessible to like everyday people? Like the fact that my parents had an Atari 2600, like I wonder if it just sort of like Atari hit the exact right like price point, right marketing, right time for your average layman who isn't someone who was just like immersed in, the latest greatest tech would be buying it. And maybe that's why we all just sort of recognize that one as being the one that we all saw growing up.
I think that's accurate. And one of the things, and I'll talk about this a little bit later on, but one of the things that there's the Magnavox sold well, like the Odyssey sold well, like not like the Atari sold. The Atari sold like gangbusters. And I think you're right. I think Atari hit like the right spot. And it also had, so the Magnavox Odyssey didn't have interchangeable cartridges. The 2600 did. So you had different games that you could kind of put in there. Magnavox had like these little like, I forget what they call them. They're like disc things that you could put in there to change what's played, but it wasn't like you could go to your game store and buy more of them. It was just like what was shipped with it.
Right.
Basically the Odyssey did fairly well, and that's when a lot of people started to want to capitalize off of how well it did, including Atari. And yeah, I think they just kind of hit like the right note at the right time, and that's how people were able to kind of jump in. And the Atari, I think, looks better than the Magnavox. Now,
I mean, it's a cool looking console. I love the look of the Atari and the joystick with it.
Yeah, me too. I think it's like retro futuristic.
Yeah, and for sure.
I think the games too, they were able to have like more games again because they had those interchangeable cartridges, and that was kind of a big selling point, I think. Like I said, the Odyssey was followed pretty quickly by people looking to capitalize off of its relative success. It didn't do those huge numbers like the 2600 or the NES, and one speculative reason was that people were thinking that salespeople were actually holding it back because, again, this is made by Magnavox, so people were speculating salespeople saying you can only play this on a Magnavox TV.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I don't know how true that is. There's no, like, I haven't found any evidence outside of just like speculation for that, but that is what some people kind of talked about.
But I would see that because it's like trying to convince people to be like, well, why don't you just bundle your TV with the console that you get? But then at the end of the day, that could shoot you in the foot, because then it turns people off from buying either of them, if they think that you have to buy them together. And it's not like people could just like Google what the answer is. So they're just going to take whatever the salesperson is telling them at face value if they don't know where to, what magazines to read or something. So that's really interesting.
Well, and also too, I think it kind of, it makes a little bit of sense, if only because I think about like people like my parents, who I remember times when we would like buy stuff and it would be like, do we have to have like the same brand of like X?
Sure.
And it's like, no, it just, it all plug in together. But at this time, I think it was kind of the Wild West a little bit of tech. So
I mean, but it is like that at certain points now. I mean, with like,
that's true.
Considering like Apple products not working with non-Apple products, like it's not that concept's been around forever. So it's not hard to believe. I don't think that people were stupid for thinking that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And especially if this is technology that you're not familiar with, that isn't as much of a mainstay yet. Yeah, you would think, like, it says Magnavox on it. I guess everything has to be Magnavox for it to work, because this is made for Magnavox.
Well, I'm sure there's also like the level of like, well, no, it's when it shows up on the screen, it's not going to look quite right but our TV has the perfect dimensions for the Odyssey. Like, it kind of makes sense and it sells itself. But anyway, back to kind of like the start of this all. Like a lot of tech, the Magnavox Odyssey exists because of the military.
Oh my God, I hate this. This world sucks.
But it gets better. It does get better. I promise. Okay. And also, too, I'm going to find a way to shoehorn World War II into every single one of our episodes now. I have to. So it exists because of the military and a man named Ralph Baer and a desire to slack off really fucking hard while at work. Okay. So I told you it gets better. But it gets worse before it gets better, though. Yeah. So he was born in 1922 in Germany. And, of course... No. You probably already know where this goes, just by me saying that. He and his family were Jewish. Of course, they needed to flee Nazi Germany, which, according to Baer himself, in an interview with Gamma Sutra in 2007.
2007? How? Oh, my God.
Yeah, he lived a long time. They fled 3 months before Kristallnacht, which is like I actually like literally just saying that, like, I got like, I don't know, I've like felt like the hairs on the back of my neck kind of stand up a little bit. And he said that himself too. So like, not that I think anyone would lie about that, but it's one of those things where it's, anyway, gaming magazines sometimes can be hard to trust. And speaking of, on a related note, so again, one of these sources that I just mentioned is the gaming site Gamma Sutra, which I never connected the dots on what it meant. It's just like putting together game and Kama Sutra. Like, that's weird, I feel like. But also the title of that article where they interview Baer is called The Right to Bear Games. And it's like, guys, what are we doing? Like, come on. Like, have a little more, like, I don't know. It's weird.
It's also not even a very good...
It's not
really.
It's bad.
If he was if he was a guns dealer and it was the right to bear arms or something, or he made prosthetic arms or something, the right to bear, but the right to bear, whatever. It's stupid. Anyway, go ahead.
But then also in a different article, Kotaku describes him like this, and this really pissed me off. Quote, unlike most men and women in the industry today, though, his background is not that of a comfortable middle-class kid. No, Baer's early years were a little more exciting. He fled Nazi Germany when he was 16. Like, don't call that exciting. Like, what are we doing? Like,
that's like the
fuck.
Oh God, yeah. It's like I'm only interesting because of my trauma. Like that's not what's happening here. It's so weird.
I stopped reading. I got to that part. I stopped reading. I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, what a fun ride that guy must have had.
So fucking God, gaming. Yeah. Anyway, the gaming world sucks sometimes.
Sometimes, sure. The word sometimes doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yep. Anyway, back to the story at hand. And I promise we'll get through this relatively quickly. But Bear actually gets drafted and makes his way to two different military contractors after the war. First, Laurel Electronics, and then Sanders Associates. While at the former, he actually came up with the concept of plugging a device into the TV to control visuals. And at the latter, he made it a reality, creating the brown box, which would eventually become the de facto prototype for the Magnavox Odyssey.
Cool.
So he eventually creates the Magnavox Odyssey, you could say. One thing I do want to note, like I mentioned earlier, it's because of a sheer amount of just like fuck work attitude. At least I'm applying that to him based on this quote. So this is a quote from Bear himself. He says, "Even thinking about video games had absolutely nothing to do with the normal business of developing complex military electronic systems in my division at Sanders Associate. But I was running a pretty large operation then, so I could afford to put a technician on the bench and have him do some experimental work without even rippling my division's overhead. So I just did it." It wasn't long before the project became official. A few convincing demonstrations to our corporate director of R&D put the project on a legitimate track that would eventually pay off handsomely. And then he kind of goes on to talk about like how, you know, even like for years later, they would still kind of like every now and again come to him and ask if he was still, quote, screwing around with this stuff. Like, so I don't know. I just thought it was really fucking cool that like the first video game basically was developed because a man goofed off at work.
Hey,
like a bunch of dudes just like goofed off in a closet at work.
Feels so appropriate,
right?
Like it's in the it's in the bones of the creation of video games. That's so funny.
We salute him. He goofed off at work so that we could goof off at work to play video games.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, like we mentioned, his work eventually would create the prototype for the first console, the Odyssey. And at risk of having another episode that's mostly us talking about history, I'll try and sum up the Odyssey to NES pipeline really, really quickly here. So first, some of this is from, I mentioned this at the top, a phenomenal video essay titled "The Entire History of Video Games" by Never Knows Best. Go check it out, but fair warning, like we said, it is 6 hours long.
It's just that's a Netflix miniseries documentary. So that checks out.
Yeah. Do what you want. I mean, you can watch it in chunks. It's fine.
Yeah.
I will say I didn't watch the entire thing just yet. Mostly just kind of like this era.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned before, there were something like 900 in quotes consoles that released prior to the NES. And Never Knows Best mentions that many of these were what are known as dedicated systems, which meant they could play either one or a handful of games. And
I was wondering if it was something like that kind of gave it the asterisk, because that makes sense. Because I mean that kind of thing is like always been around in one capacity or another, you know. So that does make sense. I do think that probably if you specifically carve the idea that like, no, it has to play like multiple games of this type or something like that, you could probably narrow it down to just a handful of consoles from there.
Absolutely. And what is funny though is like most of those dedicated systems were just Pong systems. Like I took a screenshot and like wrote on it like a absolute mad person.
Oh my God.
But like it's just like there's like discrete Pong, there's like a Dutch Pong console. There's one game system that says like it does 2 or 4 pre-installed games, handball, tennis, and it's like that's Pong. That's just fucking Pong. It's all so Pong. Funny. There was only one like on this like huge list that was, well, not only one, there's a bunch of them, but like in this screenshot that wasn't Pong. And it was like the PC 50X. I don't even know what it was, but it was just like
it's just all Pong. Probably if you play it, it's like ends up there's some Pong element to it.
Oh, I'm sure there's Pong on it.
Pong, you know, genius game. It makes sense. It is, but it is just kind of funny that it's like we got to create a whole new console to play Pong again.
I mean, that was Atari's big thing, and even the Magnavox. Magnavox did tennis first, and in fact, because of all the fucking Pong, Magnavox actually sued a bunch of the individuals who made a lot of these consoles, including Atari. So Magnavox actually sued. Yeah, they sued them, and they earned like $100 million from all of these. Yeah, well, they didn't. So
or they settled.
Atari settled, with them. But like $100 million is a lot of fucking money. I feel like to win in these lawsuits.
I mean, and that's $100 million then in the 70s,
Yes.
not now. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, and part of it too is because like it's clear that everyone was just making Pong. Like if you're gonna call your thing like ape, people are calling them like a Pong system. So it's like it's clear like if Magnavox was the first one to do table tennis on like a home console, like maybe they didn't have necessarily the right. I don't know the whole background on that, but I mean they won a lot of money from it. So
that is fascinating.
And then so after that, Atari releases the 2600 in 1977. Again, I mentioned this before. That's the first console to have interchangeable cartridges. Magnavox makes the Odyssey 2 a year later, and along the way, scores of other consoles, dedicated or otherwise, are released. And there is like a hella saturation in the market. Atari even releases their second console, the 5200, in 1983. So that's only like 5 years, right? 5 or 6 years after, their original console, in attempt to just kind of capitalize off the craze. Probably know where this is going. Inevitably, in the 80s, the console industry starts to falter and it crashes. Essentially, the market becomes so saturated and there is little quality control over the games that were being made that consumer trust just erodes.
Yeah.
You probably know all about this, Eric, but maybe some of our listeners don't. But E.T. is like pointed to as one of the worst games ever made, possibly the worst game ever made.
I had it. We had it.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm. I remember playing it. Yeah, we had it. I remember playing it, but before it like became a meme and stuff, before I heard the stories that had happened, I didn't know about that. I just know that we had it, and it's like, oh, here's a game of the movie that I've seen, and I didn't understand anything that was happening when I played it, and then later in life felt very validated when I learned, when the story would, repeatedly go around of like, did you know?
Yeah. Well, and one of the reasons that the story doesn't make any sense is because the story just doesn't make sense in the game, or it doesn't make any sense what's happening. They made it in just like a couple of months. Like,
sure, yeah.
They just like slapped it together basically. And Atari was pushing to have it released sooner for the holidays, which makes sense. And they even so what ends up happening is they intend to produce, or that they don't intend to, they overproduce these cartridges,
right?
Millions of them, and they're just expecting people are going to buy it because it's ET and it's an Atari game.
I mean, they do that. I feel like we talked about this
do that today.
on one of our previous episodes, but it's like that. It feels like only recently that the tie-in video game thing has sort of kind of seems like it's just kind of died. But for the longest time, it was just always a joke that tie-in video games, it would be a miracle if they were any good. Most of the time they were garbage because they were always rushed out just to capitalize on a popular movie or TV show. And it was always just it doesn't matter if it's trash. People will buy it because of the IP, that. It's wild that they didn't learn from the story of the famous landfill full of the ET games, that it's just sort of that might have happened, but I bet it'll work this time. I guess they just made less copies in the future for other things. And that was the solution to the problem.
It's also just fascinating to me because it's I don't know. It's like this hubris. It's this hubris of Atari that they're just fuck it. People are gonna buy it. We don't care. Make it in a couple months. It's gonna say ET on it. People are gonna pick it up for holidays. Make as many as you can. And honestly, around this time, this is when people were and it's not just ET, right? So one of the things is that, and Nintendo is going to kind of step in and start preventing some of this. But one of the things that actually was really interesting to me was to make games on the Atari and other consoles at this time, the licensing part of it, or you didn't have to have a special permission necessarily from the game developers, or they were really loose with it. So just anybody could be making games, and there were so many different types of games that were out there. A lot of them were reverse engineered and stuff from some games. So it's this whole wild world that was out there, and you could just make any kind of garbage. And at a certain point in time, and I'm taking this from that video I mentioned before, the entire history of video games. He talks about how basically what happens is, even with ET, stores have this glut of games that they have to sell. So you have salespeople who are telling consumers no, this game is good. You have to buy it. Right. A lot of them are getting discounted because they have to get rid of them. Consumers buy them, play it. it sucks. So then they stopped trusting the game stores and things like that too. So it's kind of this like really vicious downward cycle, and that like legitimately leads to a crash like around this time. So that's kind of when Nintendo steps in.
We're the Mario Brothers, and plumbing's our game. We're not like the others who get all the fame. If your sink is in trouble, you can call us on the double. We're faster than the others, you'll be hooked on the brothers. Hooked on the brothers. Yo, you're in for a treat, so hang on to your seat. Get ready for adventure and remarkable feats. You'll meet Koopas and Troopers, the princess and the others. Hanging with the plumbers, you'll be hooked on the brothers to the bridge.
Do you know what Nintendo did before they started making consoles?
I did at one point.
Not to keep quizzing you.
No, but I've read the information. I know the company's been around since what, like the 1800s or something like that. I am blank. I've known this trivia, and I'll feel stupid when you tell me, but I don't remember exactly what they were doing back then.
I mean, it's pretty. I mean, they were making like trading cards. And, like,
trading cards. Okay.
Board games.
Okay. Yeah. Duh. That's why I didn't remember, because it's so obvious. Yeah.
But like, it's like it can't be that. That's too. They had to have been making like cigarettes. No. They're just making that, and like that's I think one of those just like gamer trivia things that everyone should know. So everybody listening, there you go. There's your little fact for the day.
It's very cool.
But one thing, so they moved into electronic games around the time of like arcades and things like that. And they even made some dedicated consoles during the 70s, but then they released the Famicom in Japan in 1983. The gaming industry was a little bit different in Japan, and we mentioned this in terms of arcade on our last episode. The landscape is different just in Japan than it is here, right? So they didn't have quite the crash that we did, but they did see the North American market was kind of tanking at the time. So they actually waited a few years to actually bring the Famicom to America.
Ooh, very smart.
Yeah. So in 1983, again, was released in Japan. It wasn't until 1985 that they make their move and bring it to the US. And it's actually rebranded as the Nintendo Entertainment System at that point.
Will it be you? Will your family be the first to witness the birth of the incredible Nintendo Entertainment System? Will you be the first to see, to touch, to play with Rob, the extraordinary video robot? He follows the commands you put on screen to help you tackle even the toughest challenge. Will you be the first to raise the incredibly accurate Zapper and play games like Duck Hunt and Hogan's Alley? The first to build a library of game packs like Kung Fu and Golf? Even games like Excite Bike that you program yourself. Will you be the first to get all this in one package? The Nintendo Entertainment System, where video technology is more than a game.
And they were attempting to kind of sort of position it differently than a lot of other consoles at the time. They even made a point of changing. If you look at the Famicom versus the NES, they look completely different.
Wait, really? I didn't know that. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I should have put an image in here, but it's like the Famicom looks much more like how you would envision like a cartridge-based console. Like it looks almost like an Atari, like a console. I think or the cartridge goes on top.
I mean, kind of like what the SNES would end up being, where the cartridge goes in, right?
I think a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit like that. Okay. But then they make the NES look more like a VCR. Intentionally. I
guess because I've lived with it for so long, and it just never even occurred to me that, it's literally just a VCR. And like no other cartridge-based game is like, or our game system is like that. That is so funny. What a brilliant move, though.
Yeah, when I talk, like, obviously, like, corporations all suck, but like Nintendo does some like really rad shit a lot of the times. I mean, even like, I think actually, Another Glitterjaw show, Novel Gaming, was just talking about this on one of their recent episodes, how there were like layoffs in like the gaming industry, and Nintendo's notorious for their CEOs, like at various points in time, have taken pay cuts to not have to lay people off. So like they feel like, I'm sure they are still somewhat evil, but they feel like the least amount of evil you can be as a
sure
game company. I just dropped an image too in the doc. That's what the Famicom looks like.
It's really pretty. I love the color, but I do think that the VCR thing,
it works.
It worked very well for America.
It fucking works.
I think that makes so much sense.
They've made very good decisions coming to America. They also, so one of the other things they did was they tried to brand it again as like an entertainment system, not a video game console. This is an entertainment system. They had Rob the Robot that came with it that was like packaged in and would do different things as you were playing games. So it was more of like you gather round kind of thing and play together. Like, you know what I mean? Like the family kind of system.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost like, I don't know. I guess it feels more like a piece with your television, and then, and television and VCR, like as a package of your, like the way that we, now, if you move somewhere, for a lot of people, the first thing you set up is is in your living room, whatever your entertainment area is, with your TV and your gaming system and your Blu-ray player or whatever, what have you. I guess it ends up being like, this is less like a separate toy as much as it is like, no, here's a thing that is like accompanying everything else that you would have in your living room that everyone would be, watching or playing together. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and again, some of the other smart decisions that they made, I alluded to this earlier, but they started putting much stricter standards on like the third-party developers on their system, which we still see to this day.
Yeah, good for them.
And they also like had, I mean, the other thing is like they had, Mario. Like they had
yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of the word. I'm blanking on mascot. Like they had like a mascot.
Oh,
right?
sure.
Like that was, part of it as well. So like the branding kind of helped in that regard. So they started putting that Nintendo seal of approval and stuff, which that really became synonymous with like the system's quality. So in doing that, they basically like single-handedly saved the industry at the time. Like there was a very real, like you can watch like news recordings at the time of people being like, was this just a fad? Like now that the market's crashed, and Nintendo comes in and I mean like legitimately kind of saves the industry, I think, at least at the time. I'm sure something else could have come along and kind of taken its place and we would have still had video games, but I do think like you have to give them a whole ton of credit for like really bringing consumer trust back, right? For one, that you can still buy video games and they're still fucking fun. But anyway, in 1990, the Super NES is released, and that's actually a year prior to Bart versus the Space Mutants release on the NES.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. I guess I mean, it didn't even occur to me that if this comes out in 91, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Why did they make that decision?
Okay.
I think I might know why. There's actually an interview with one of the game developers later on that I think will probably illuminate a little bit of that. But before we actually get into the game itself, any final thoughts on this kind of like console history?
Oh God,
as it is now. I didn't talk about everything. I will note,
yeah. And I mean, we have plenty more games on consoles after this, so it won't be the only time consoles come up. No, not really. I think it is. I mean, I think it's interesting. I guess video game consoles are so part and parcel to like what entertainment is now. It is sort of interesting. It's interesting here, but also like none of it's surprising either. I feel like it's just like, it's originally developed for the military, then it explodes with civilians and then crashes and then Japan saves it. It's like, you know what? For the story of a technology, that actually all totally makes sense to me. So
it all adds up. Just some other real quick fun facts. The NES total units sold 61.91 million. It's the 13th best selling of all time. This blew my mind that when I found this. So in Japan, the Famicom was still being sold as new up through 2001. there are boxes that exist with like a copyright of 2002 on them, and there's like people have like taken images of like the data chips and stuff like that are being dated around or having like something that indicates they're dated around that time as well. So they could have still been in production in like 2000. Like,
you know, that actually doesn't really surprise me, because I think that. I don't want to end up speaking to any cultural ignorance here, but I feel like in Japan, there just generally is a little more, I don't know,
That's true.
respect, I guess, for product in general, I think, but also like I think there's a little more respect for like older things in technology and in toys and stuff like that. Like I know that I can go to many stores in Japan and find like toys from like Sentai shows and Toku shows and anime shows from like the 70s and 80s if I wanted to. Like there, it's not like, I don't know. I feel like in America we move so quickly and try to reinvent things and move forward that like then you almost sort of bury some of what your pop culture history is. And I don't feel like Japan is the same way. I think that there's a little more willingness to sort of just embrace the history of the pop culture and technology that led up to where it is. So I'm not really surprised that there's like more retro gamers there that are willing to buy this stuff, and companies willing to be like, hell yeah, we'll make Famicons. People buy them, we'll make them, you know?
I mean, that actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because I wasn't even thinking of that. Like, I do think there is a distinct difference in like the consumer culture here versus the consumer culture in Japan. And like, I mean, in the US, it's very much like, oh, this thing broke, throw it away, buy a new one kind of thing.
And very like latest and greatest
mindset. Yeah. So that makes a ton of sense. I'm glad you mentioned that because I wasn't even really thinking of like, you know, again, this is the Famicom, so it is the one in Japan. I'll also note too, like that was like cursory kind of research. So if I got any of that wrong, if anybody out there wants to correct us, like feel free. But like that, I was like looking at images and like boxes and stuff like that people have had pictures of. So that was where I kind of got that from. In the U.S., NES is officially discontinued in 1995. The Lion King was the final game released for the NES in Europe, and then Wario's Woods was the last one released in the North America.
I didn't realize that it was being made as late as 1995, though.
That feels really late. Yeah, there's a lot more overlap, I think, of... I mean, I guess the PS4 is still probably in production. Like, you could probably still buy a new PS4.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. It feels like there's more overlap with like those older consoles, though.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and I think that they were comparatively more expensive than I feel like too. And I mean, you know, my parents didn't get a Super NES after the NES, so like I could have been getting new NES games if I wanted to up until 1995, and it would have worked great for us because that's the only console we had. So it actually that does kind of make sense the more I think about it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's jump into the actual the reason we're here. The game.
The Nintendo World News with Mario.
Today we visit a typical suburban family, the Simpsons. What's happening? They're playing a new video game. Space Mutants are invading the Earth, and only one dude can stop them.
Finally, Bart Simpson!
He's zapping everything with spray paint. He's jumping on the slimy mutant's head. But Homer shows him how to...
My game.
I guess that's the end of our report on The Simpsons.
Nintendo. My game.
Bart, go to bed.
Sure thing, Dad.
It's Bart versus the Space Mutants for your NES.
Rumba.
Only Bart Simpson can save the Earth.
Okay.
Get the Simpsons game for your NES from Acclaim. Bart!
So like we mentioned before, Bart vs. the Space Mutants was released for the NES in 1991. The game is a platformer, which was majorly popular. It was majorly popular at the time. Donkey Kong released in 1981. It was essentially the first platformer, but it lacked a lot of the elements that we associate with platformers today. But it did have power-ups, although limited, and jumping. That was it. And it was on platform, so you know it was a platformer. As the genre progressed, we started to see side-scrolling, additional levels, and other interactables added in. Of course, it's pretty common knowledge, but the Super Mario Bros. For the NES is what really defined the genre, combining all of these elements with really precise controls, enemy stomping, and tons of secrets into this sort of archetypical package that delivers... that developers would point to for decades as kind of the playbook for the genre. And then I did want to call out, I mentioned this before, it was the YouTube channel Retro Pals. They were the ones who I was watching play through all the Acclaim games, and they're the ones who called Bart versus the Space Mutants. Essentially, this is a quote. Essentially, this is a point-and-click adventure game in the guise of a platformer.
I cannot get over how on point that is.
It is.
It really
It
does.
just is.
Like, no pun intended, but click into place in my head when I hear that, because suddenly I understand so much more what this game was trying to do. Yeah.
Same. 100% same. And we can talk a little bit more about that. I think a lot of those elements do not work in the way they had intended.
No.
It's really annoying. But the game was developed for the NES, Atari ST, and Game Gear by Imagineering, and then a company called Arc Developments developed the game for the ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, and Genesis. Acclaim published the game for the NES, and technically they produced the game for the Genesis, Master System, and Game Gear versions too, but just under a different label. Ocean Software published the game for the Atari ST, the Amiga, the ZX Spectrum, and the Commodore 64.
There's so many consoles.
I know. That's why one of the reasons why I was like, I wanted to open the episode with like the number of consoles, and then this is super confusing. The listeners aren't going to know this, but I just tried to do this like 3 fucking times, and I think I even still got it wrong on the
Whatever. I mean, and I haven't. I don't know. I mean, I've talked about my lack of gaming experience growing up. So like all of these, I don't even know what any of these.
No,
the majority of these even are. Like, I don't even know what these even are. I've heard of the Commodore 64, but what the fuck is a ZX Spectrum and an Amiga? Like, you know, I don't know. Know.
I'm right there with you. I think that the Amiga was like the DOS version of the game, so it was almost like a home PC.
That makes sense at least.
I'm probably getting this wrong. Don't come for me, but it's entirely possible that
ZX Spectrum is a cool ass name, though. I gotta hand
actually, funny story. There was a band that I discovered in high school that was like named ZX Spectrum, and they did a bunch of like NES covers, which is funny.
That's funny. Good band name.
It's a good band name. Because we spent so much time talking about home consoles, I think we're going to save the discussion for the two main studios, Acclaim and Imagineering, for a future episode. Because they actually make the next 2 games that we're going to talk about. So we have plenty of time.
Cool.
But like, Derek.
Okay.
Let me tell you, there's a lot to talk about regarding Acclaim. A little teaser, but Acclaim fucking sucks and was sued by both Dave Mirra, the BMX biker, and the Olsen twins.
I'm so excited to hear about this. I'm so pumped to get to talk about the Olsen twins at some point on this podcast.
Right?
Because I never have an opportunity to podcast about the Olsen twins. So
we're getting the chance here, baby.
Exciting. I cannot wait.
Yeah, teaser for everybody out there. We're going to be talking about Olsen twins when we talk about Bart versus Camp Deadly.
You got it,
or not
dude.
Bart versus, but yeah.
Well, which one is it? If it's not Bart versus Camp Deadly,
or not? It's not Bart versus. Sorry, not Bart versus Camp Deadly. Bart escape. It's Bart escapes from Camp Deadly.
Oh, you know what's funny? It didn't even occur to me.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't. They should have named them all Bart versus. That would have made way more sense.
Yeah, just like the Godzilla movies. It's just like Bart versus whoever. I think that sounds.
Doesn't matter. Great. They should have done that. Anyway, in terms of the development of the game, the game was inspired by, or at least pays homage to, the movie They Live. We mentioned that earlier. That is a John Carpenter film starring American hero and wrestler Roddy Piper alongside, like you mentioned, Keith David and Meg Foster. According to Wikipedia, Roddy's character, quote, discovers through the use of special sunglasses that the ruling class are aliens, concealing their appearance and manipulating people to consume, breed, and conform to the status quo via subliminal messages and mass media.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the game takes the sunglasses and the aliens.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, but and that's fine. I don't know that this Bart Simpson game would have been particularly political, so I understand.
Yeah, they didn't.
I think using, but I do think that's such a rich concept that it makes perfect, like X-ray glasses and aliens possessing people, or aliens pretending to be people. Super easy to do, easy way to make a video game out of that. I think that makes sense. I don't know that I would have immediately thought of that as being the first home console Simpsons game idea. But if you just say it's Bart Simpson with X-ray glasses fighting aliens, or not even fighting aliens, trying to stop aliens. Like I don't know. I guess I get it.
I don't know. I guess it was just popular at the time they were making it. And they were like, let's do this.
Was
it's
it?
kind of my, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
I thought they came out early. When did They Live come out? That was 1988. So that had already been out for a little while.
True.
Yeah. So I don't think that this was I think this was somebody just liked the movie.
I think that is likely, but the timing of it is going to be suspect. We'll talk about that in a second. But
okay.
The other thing we should mention is that this also is referencing the Space Mutants that are in Simpsons proper. I'd have all the list of like every mention of them. I don't know if it's that interesting, but they show up on a poster in the flashback in the episode I Married Marge, the Tracy Ullman short Scary Movie, in the episode The Telltale Head, the episode Principal Charming, Colonel Homer, Bart's Friend Falls in Love, Day of the Nerd, and on a poster at the Aztec Theater in the episode Beyond Blunderdome.
Oh, so that was going into like season 11, so that they were still making references. I just want to call out though. I mean, the Space Mutant stuff I've never really. I mean, it's like whatever. It's just a movie in the background for Simpsons. I do love the title Space Mutants 4: The Trilogy Continues. That's banger joke.
Okay, so there's in terms of the names, that they show in the show. It's Space Mutants, Revenge of the Space Mutants, Space Mutants, like you said, Space Mutants 4: The Trilogy Continues. But then it's just like 5, 6, 7, 10, and 12.
They don't really make any funny jokes out of them. Yeah, I think that's why Space Mutants has never really done it for me, because it's never been anything funny about it, really.
Yeah. But you're right. For Space Mutants 4: The Trilogy Continues it's good. Phenomenal.
It's a great
joke.
That's
a great joke.
Yeah.
Anyway, we talked a little bit about They Live. In terms of the good folks who worked on this game, Gary Kitchen was the lead designer on the game, and he's probably best known for porting Donkey Kong to the 2600. He also worked on a game called Keystone Capers for the 2600 and other tie-in games like Ghostbusters and Home Alone for the NES. We'll also see his name pop up when we talk about a couple of other games. So same thing with some of these other folks. They all were working on the same ones. Barry Marks, Dan Kitchen, Roger Booth, and Henry C. Will IV are also listed as additional developers. And Barry, who we'll talk about briefly in a second, is credited as the writer. Jesse Capelli is credited as the artist, and all of them just have a handful of various different credits. Capelli worked on the 1984 Family Feud and Tarzan games. Roger Booth worked on Bart meets Radioactive Man. They should have just stuck with Versus again. And then Versus the World. Henry C. Will has credits on Star Trek TNG for the Game Boy, and a few other tie-in games. Dan Kitchen worked on the Home Improvement tie-in game, Ren and Stimpy, and then a handful of other Simpsons games we'll cover, as well as served as the technology consultant for the film Grandma's Boy.
What's Grandma's Boy? I don't know if I know what that is.
It's a comedy from like the mid 2000s, I want to say, about like gaming, and it's like a raunchy like comedy. I don't even remember. You would know if you saw the poster, I think.
Was it one of those movies that they like aired on Comedy Central a bunch or something that I never
watched? Probably. I think it's like
2006. That's more recent than I thought.
Nick Swardson, Barry Wernick, Alan Covert.
Linda Cardellini's in it.
Yeah. So like,
Okay.
I don't know. It has like a little bit to do with gaming, I think, and so that's why he was like a technology. Yeah. It was a Happy Madison movie, so
and I didn't care about any of those movies. Yeah. I just accidentally hovered over the word a link to the masturbation page on Wikipedia when going through that plot summary. So that all sounds about right.
Of course, yeah, I would.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I think I want to give obviously them their due, but I also think it's interesting the amount of crossover that these developers have, but also they work on a lot of tie-in games. Like,
yeah,
they have experience doing that. Like Home Alone, Home Alone. I almost said Home Improvement, but
both
of them are there.
Wait,
Home Improvement and Home Alone pop up like among the tie-in games. So,
Home Alone makes way more sense as a video game than Home Improvement does. I'm not really sure what the Home Improvement tie-in game looks like.
Yeah, I don't either. As for the score, Danny Elfman is, of course, credited for the theme, but we also have Mark Van Heck, who did the score for the NES, Mark Cooksey, who did the Master System and Game Gear, and then Jonathan Dunn, who worked on computers. And I did want to pause real fast before we got to some of the other aspects, because I think the music is like both one of my favorite parts of this game and also one of my least favorite aspects. So what were your thoughts on the music in this, Derek?
I wasn't sure how he felt until I did watch. I looked at some playthroughs of the Sega Genesis version just to see what the music was like, because I knew it was different, and it made me appreciate the NES music a lot more, because they swap out all of it. They don't do the Simpsons game at all in the Sega version for some reason, and I don't really get that, but the music they replace it with is pretty bad most of the time. Like it's really it's one upside, I guess, is that like I think that it's a different music for every level, which the NES is not. It's like every other level is the same song. So at least it's different, but it's like very I don't know, it's kind of boring and like doesn't change with bosses or anything. So there'll just be like a really like kind of low, slow beat when like a boss is happening. Which at the very least in the NES version, when bosses show up, they will at least change the music somewhat. And I do kind of like the remix of the Simpsons theme song that they have in the NES version. What is interesting to me is the way that they use that do-do-do-do-do-do part of the Simpsons theme song.
Yeah.
Eat my shorts.
I like that they use it when you die. I think that that's actually really clever. I don't love when they just like repeat it as just like theme music for like mini bosses and stuff sometimes. Or just, taking bits of the theme song and just repeating bits of it and pretend that that's a new song. And it is a bummer that like there's really only like 2, maybe 3 bits of music for all the levels, because they repeat them a couple of times. When, I would have loved to have heard a more carnival-y song for Krusty Land, for example. So yeah.
I agree with all that. I actually will say I originally thought I liked the Genesis version of the soundtrack better, because it sounds like, I think the sound quality is better.
Yeah.
Right, I didn't put together the fact that it didn't really like connect quite as well, and I also didn't play as much of it. I just kind of like listened to a little bit of the songs.
Same.
I will say, the music in stage 2 and 4, fucking rip.
It is good.
Love that song.
Because that's the mall and the museum, right?
Museum. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that song is really good.
It's so good. I actually think I like that better than the Simpsons rendition that they have. They need the Simpsons song. I think that should have just stuck in stage 1. Yeah, in my opinion.
I agree.
But like,
I agree.
Man,
I totally agree.
I like truly like it. That song stuck with me. I was like humming it for days.
It's
it
good.
Was so good.
It's good.
Yeah, we talked about how like the music, it's kind of like this. I really got kind of annoyed with the Simpsons music throughout, I think, because I felt like I was spending longer on some of those stages.
Well, yeah, I think.
I also hated Bart saying "eat my shorts" over and over and over again.
Well, but it's okay, because occasionally he'll say "cool, man."
Cool, man.
So you get him saying 2 things in this game. You can get to your Nancy Cartwright in this game a couple of times. That's pretty baller. No, it does get really fucking annoying because you do die a lot. So,
did you happen to listen to in like the Genesis version or the DOS version, the Nancy Cartwright. It's a lot clearer. Like when you listen to the Genesis sound, like it almost sounds like it's straight out of the cartoon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I actually like that a lot. The other thing so just jumping back to the composition, a couple interesting notes about them. So Mark Van Heck is an American composer who worked for Imagineering, developed soundtracks, like I said, for the NES version. And then Mark Cooksey is British and worked on the Game Gear, Sega Master System, and Genesis. I mention this because I just wanted to call out some of their credits too. So Cooksey composed for Ghosts and Goblins, which is like huge. Like that's a big name game. Huh. And he has credits all the way through 2007. So a pretty prolific career there. Van Heck is less known, but does have a number of different credits to his name too. He worked on a lot of different tie-in games and things like that. And that's kind of the theme throughout this, right? Like, so he worked on tie-in games. Let's see. Yeah, Van Heck worked on Home Alone and then Home Alone 2, as well as Ghostbuster 2 and even Barbie, while Cooksey worked on Star Wars titles, Gremlin tie-in games, and the Addams Family. Wow. And also the Star Wars, like NES soundtrack is so good. Like,
nice.
It's so good. Like that kind of bit, 8-bit score or whatever bit score is just, I just love it. Yeah. But yeah, like everybody's working on tie-in games at this time. Like, and so it makes sense that they all kind of come together to work on this. And I think Imagineering was a big name in tie-in games at the time, which we'll talk about them a little bit later.
I have to imagine The Simpsons is also just a dream property because that it's going to sell something. Like it's not like there's no way that a Simpsons game isn't going to like crash and burn at this point during Bart Mania,
Right. And it doesn't. It actually does pretty well in terms of sales. It sold like 1 million copies, I think, which is good. Top 2 selling games at the time in 1991 were I have it later on. It's one of the Sonic games. I think it's Sonic 2. Mm-hmm. Sonic the Hedgehog, which was on the Genesis, it sold 2.8 million copies, and then Super Mario World for the SNES sold 2.6 million.
Oh, it's games that Bart versus the Space Mutants really lives up to. It's not particularly stiff competition or anything.
Yeah, and it is. It's funny. It's like what game do you want for Christmas? Do you want Bart versus the Space Mutants for the older console, or do you want the Genesis Sonic game or the Super Mario game?
Super Mario World, you said? Like, that's the one that I like
for the
a lot.
SNES. Yeah.
It's and that is just so funny to me knowing that, like, these came out at the same time. Like, that's so weird because this game we will talk about it. There are things about this game that feel very innovative, I think, and maybe even kind of ahead of its time in some ways. But then I hear that it like came out at the same time that Super Mario World did, and I'm like,
it's like what?
Oh, never mind. Okay, I take it all back.
Bart's
actually,
cape? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the thing that's so good about Super Mario World, I think, is how fluid it is. Like it's just there's so many elements of it, and it just moves so seamlessly, and this game is like the opposite of that. Like it just feels like pulling teeth to do things in this game.
It's disjointed, like in every sense of the word. It's disjointed. Even going from like one level to the next, it like doesn't make sense. Like, we'll talk about it.
You can't, but it's like when you have that comparison in mind, I think it does make it harder to sort of just like defend the game as being a product of its time or anything like that. Cause it's like, no, they were cracking out some pretty amazing games at this very time. So, there wasn't really that much of an excuse for this game to feel as clunky as it is.
They do not have an excuse. So we talked about the differences in the sound of the different versions. We're obviously going to focus our review, or at least my main focus was the NES. I played through that version.
Sure.
But I did dabble a bit in the Genesis version just to see how much it like improved the controls. And the controls generally do feel tighter.
Okay,
you get good. Much, like I said, you get much crisper Eat My Shorts if you're playing that version of the game.
That's what you want.
The other thing that is not maddening is the fact that the Genesis doesn't make you press the start button to change the item or the function that you want to do.
God.
Or maybe it was select.
No,
I don't remember which
press
button it was.
Now I'm forgetting too. Actually,
I'm grabbing my controller. I think it's you press.
Maybe you press. Press start. Select. You press
select. Yeah.
Sorry. You're talking. Just say it. Go for it. You got the answer.
You press. I think it is. You press select to like find the item, and then you press start to do it. But your pause menu is built into that
That's
too.
the thing that drove me crazy because this game is also on a timer, so you will need to pause sometimes. I mean, yeah, I don't know if there's a section to talk about controls or if here's the place to do it.
Whenever. Let's do it now.
Because there's that, because you collect a lot of items, so you have to cycle through them. So that's annoying to have to do that along with your pause menu, along with the you have items to use things individually in a point and click kind of way, except you have to cycle through them. But that also includes the X-ray glasses, which you have to cycle through to get, which are like time sensitive things because if you don't move fast enough, you have to catch, because you have to use the glasses to see people that are aliens, but they walk very quickly and you have to catch up to them before they go off screen to stomp them to collect it in order to like collect a Simpsons person to help you with the boss at the end of the level. So like to cycle through that is really obnoxious. And then that's not even taking into account like the running, the long, like running jump thing, or long jump, because you don't just do the thing like in Mario where you can like run and hold it and then jump. You like the like B button, I think is like to use an item like spray paint or whatever. The A button is jump and run. So you have to hold the A button to run and you have to jump. So you can't do a running jump. You have to hold the item button and you have to hold B and A, which is not a run and a jump. It's an item use and a jump. Hold both of those together to do like a long jump, which I didn't know. Until after I'd been so frustrated with the game and not being able to get past the first level. And then I looked it up and learned that was the control the whole time after a very long time not being able to do anything. And I just quit the game and watched a Let's Play after that. So that was my experience with it because of the controls.
Listen, I don't blame you 100%. I will say one interesting thing. I actually looked up the manual. So one thing that I think we take for granted nowadays is like the manuals for these, like we don't have to like worry about manuals because they don't fucking make them anymore. Yeah. But the manual for this game actually does. So it tells you like a lot of those different things, which I didn't know either. So I was like, let me look up the manual.
Yeah.
It tells you. Okay. So it tells you this is what it says in the manual. For a super long jump, press both the A and B button at the same time. And then in parentheses, make sure you press the A button just before you press the B button, especially when holding a weapon. Otherwise, you'll waste a shot.
Yeah.
Why did you make it that way?
Right.
Like, what?
It's so weird.
Like, oh my God, it is.
It's really infuriating. And I mean, my game too, I don't know if it was the emulator, it was the game. Maybe I can't put too much blame on it, but like, I had a hard time even getting like spray paint to interact with stuff. I couldn't spray paint anything. Like I couldn't get anything to spray paint. That was also part of it too. That's one of the reasons I quit.
The spray painting, I don't know. It's weirdly sensitive. That was annoying in the first level. I'm going to just be honest. The first level is my least favorite level. I actually just dropped the link to the manual in chat. I actually think the manual is kind of really fun. There's a lot of really cool stuff in it. There's a lot of like fun Simpsons artwork. Okay. They also have that is really cool. Like descriptions of the Simpsons family as well. And much like the arcade game, it's all described around Bart. But I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you're only playing as Bart in this. But I do think it is funny that like, it's like Marge, Bart's loving mom, will be at the mall if he needs her, and at the power plant to ease his burden.
Oh yeah, which is, I mean, it's true. That's totally right.
Yeah, it's all right. But actually, I really like this manual. I think it has a lot of really fun stuff in it.
It's really neat. I love all the artwork in it.
The dividers too, like the different sections, are Bart's hair. Like it's fun.
Oh, that is
they
fun.
do a really fun like job with it. But yeah, like. Dude, it was infuriating. Like the control system was just infuriating. Like having to hold you have two buttons. Mm-hmm. Why do I have to hold the same button to jump, to run? Why didn't you just make the item button, the run button, and then have like, I don't know, up or down to like be one of the items? Like I don't know. I feel like that's not that hard to figure out, like a different way to have done it. It was infuriating. Also, I did just want to call out, in the Genesis version, you do not have to cycle through in the same maddening way as on the NES version. They fix a lot of those things. I didn't play a ton of the Genesis version, but I actually couldn't figure out how to switch items even still.
Well, that's not a good sign.
There was a dedicated pause button, which I was appreciative of.
That's you know what? That's a step for that's how you know the bar is in hell. Like I had a button that let me pause it. I can pause the game now.
Oh my God, there were so many times when it was like, I got to cycle through really fast so I can pause this.
Right.
Like, it's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, absurd.
Some other real quick differences on the different versions. Like I said, this was released on everything. 91 for the NES, and then later in 91 for the Amiga. I didn't even mention these before. They just popped up. I think the outline is possessed. Amiga Amstrad CPC.
Amstrad CPC.
Atari ST, Commodore 64, and then ZX Spectrum. And then 1992 is actually when it was ported over to the Genesis and the Sega Master System and the Game Gear. There is did you happen to look up the MS-DOS version by chance?
No, I did not.
There's an MS-DOS version that has an animated intro.
Ooh, cool.
It's fun. Yeah. We should pull it up after we record just to watch it.
You should post it on socials.
Yeah, we'll post it on social. It opens on a really bored Bart who's looking out of his window to see a UFO parked in his backyard. They start a tractor beam and beam down some space mutants who disguise themselves as human. Bart, using his quick thinking, puts on his X-ray glasses and goes to greet them, giving them a stilted, "I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?"
I love it. Okay. Yeah. Hey, that's all you need. I mean, and it's basically what the NES version opens with. It's just you actually can like really see it and understand what's going on a little better.
Yep. I also dropped in some screenshots that we'll again post in the longer show notes that we'll post of all the different differences in versions. At first, so playing on the emulator, the NES version, and this is a common thing with games like. When game developers made games for CRT TVs, they take into effect scan lines. Like that is a thing, right? So like if you play on a screen nowadays an older game, it's going to look a lot flatter and not as kind of the developer intended. And so I actually played through it with the scan line options enabled, and it looks a lot better. I'm going to be like quite honest with you.
That's good to know. I'll have to remember that for next time because that didn't even occur to me. But I'd prefer playing it with the scan lines. So yeah, that's cool.
The normal NES version is just so flat and kind of ugly. I don't like it at all. It's not that much better with the scan lines, but I think it works. Like I think it looks kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like not to be annoying, but like it gives it more retro vibes. You know, like because it is. But yeah, I mean, it's your. Yeah, you're kind of playing it in the way that it was intended to be played because they had nobody had any idea what televisions in high definition would be nowadays. So, yeah.
I will say that the Sega Master System and the Sega Genesis versions both look pretty decent kind of on their own, even without like scan lines. I actually think the Genesis is my favorite looking one.
Yeah, the Genesis looks really good. I was really surprised when I was I was just watching some clips of it and it like the way that they detail the backgrounds especially like it looks more like what you'd expect from like the SNES era more than the actual NES game does.
And it also just like it feels more like a Simpsons game. I mean, you can like in the screenshot I have here, like it's Moe's Tavern is in a weird spot. Like it doesn't matter, but like it looks more like Moe's Tavern.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
I also think that the like MS-DOS / Amiga version looks kind of cool too. That one's towards the bottom below.
Oh yeah, that one does look good. It looks like there's like shading on it, and that's really interesting.
A lot of shading, except that's for some reason that is the only one that has Bart in his blue shirt.
That's really funny.
I don't know why. And then the ZX Spectrum, which is right below that one.
No, honey. Oh no. You have a great name, but that name does, your product does not match up to your name. I'm sorry, baby. That's not good. Nope.
All of the moving enemies are just outlines, and the player is just an outline. Oh my goodness. Okay, I don't know anything about the ZX Spectrum, so.
No.
If anyone is listening to this and there's something that we're missing, like if you're supposed to wear like special glasses when you play or something, let me know. But like it to me just looks like outlines characters, and it just kind of is not good. That's my least favorite looking version, I think.
Yeah. Ooh.
But yeah, I think again, like if you're gonna play a version of it, I think the Genesis is probably the way to go. Tighter controls, looks a lot better. The NES version I think is still fun to play. It's a lot more challenging. I think the platforming elements are. And even the Genesis is going to be tough too, but like I think you're just going to have a better experience playing that, with the exception of the music potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of other things I wanted to talk about. So the lead developer of this game was actually interviewed in the book The Minds Behind the Games, Interviews with Cult and Classic Video Game Developers, by John Hinckley Jr. Sorry, not. Oh my God!
Wow.
Not John Hinckley.
Wow.
Patrick.
I didn't. Christ. Man, he was busy.
He was busy.
Busy, man.
Between his cat paintings, something that happened.
A true artist. A true artist, really, honestly. What a real American hero that guy was. Or is. He's still alive. I don't know why he's dead.
Patrick Hickey Jr.
How did you get John Hinckley Jr. from that?
I don't
Just
know.
On the mind, man. Wow.
Freudian slip. Good Lord.
Wow.
I won't cut that out.
No, please don't, man.
Oh, goodness.
Look, there's just a very popular Jodie Foster TV show that was just on the air, and
John Hinckley isn't even a junior, is he? Is he a junior?
I think he is. No, he is. Yeah, he's a junior.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that. I think it's just
okay.
Hinckley, whatever.
I see that.
Oh, my God.
So funny. That is
anyway,
so funny.
In the book by Hickey Jr., Gary Kitchen, the lead developer, talks about the game, its difficulty, and the process by which it was developed. On the difficulty curve, he says, "I thought the majority of the game played very well, challenging, but not in an unfair way. I have a little bit of an issue with that. There may have been some levels later in the game which could have used more tuning, but failed to get it due to schedule." So we have an instance of crunch, right? Like they wanted to get this thing out and they just didn't have the time to perfect it, unfortunately. One thing that's interesting is that Kitchen actually talks about how he felt gamers were really interested in difficult games at the time. I would argue like
no, I think
I don't know if that's true. Like
I think that it I don't know. It's hard to say because I feel like in retrospect, I think that most people would agree that the majority of games were harder proportionally compared to games now where the majority of games are not nearly as hard. But I don't know. I feel like that was less to do with people actively wanting hard games so much as the access that they had was mostly only to hard games. And so people had to sort of match the hardness of them at the time, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I think it was just kind of like arcade games were designed to be hard because they wanted to eat quarters.
Right.
And so they were just like, well, I guess every game should be this difficult.
There are people who like the challenge, but I think your everyday consumer, like for something like a Simpsons game, if it's a thing where it's like, I like the TV show The Simpsons, I want to play a Simpsons video game, like there's a lot of people who are going to be picking that game up that aren't interested in the competitive like challenge of a hard video game,
I don't know. I think about like the difficulty curve again, putting this up against games that released at the same time. The difficulty curve in Sonic, not that steep. I mean, I think it definitely gets more challenging as the game goes on.
Good point.
Super Mario World the Super Mario games are notorious for having very difficult end games, but like they ramp you into it. Like the early games, there is a very nice level curve, and I think that
you pick up the rhythms of those games like very easily, and then get better at them as you play them and practice them.
I think it's a little bit of a cop out personally for him to just be like, people wanted tough games, so we made a tough game. I don't think that was I don't think that is the full truth. I think that's partially true, but I also think like they could have done a better job of ramping up the difficulty. One way would be to have consistent fucking elements throughout the game.
That's and I think too, one thing I noticed about this game, and I know you were just talking about the manual and stuff like that, right? Like technically it was more expected that you would have a book with you, but I do think you could pick up any Mario game without a manual and you kind of are able to figure it out. The game sort of teaches you by introducing you with an early easy level where you can figure out the mechanics and then add more mechanics gradually. This game really kind of tosses you into it. Like the first time I started it up, I didn't even realize you would use the X-ray glasses to see aliens in people's heads. I
had no idea.
I do think the Genesis version improves on that because it makes it like in the opening sort of cut scene, you see Bart flip his glasses on and off, and then it shows the aliens' heads like blinking between people, and it's like, there's your clue. But the NES game does not make that clear. So I'm like, I start the game and I'm like, am I supposed to jump on the squid aliens? Am I supposed to use X-rays to look into buildings? Mm-hmm. Like, I know that there's purple objects, but some purple objects, like, I can jump on. Some of them I can't. Some of them I can spray paint. Some of them I can't. Like, and then you get 50,000 objects you can buy with coins. Like there's nothing is teaching you. The game isn't sort of, I don't need games to have a full-on tutorial every time, but there is a way good games organically teach you how to watch the game in the way that like a good movie can kind of teach you how to watch the movie early on, where it's sort of like, here's your sort of taste of the genre that we're in and the types of things you're going to experience, right? Like this game does not do that. It just tosses you in and you just kind of have to flail around until you figure it out or read a walkthrough for it.
Yep. Well, I will say, I know that tutorial levels weren't like in vogue at the time, but and I really wish I remember who said this, but it was a streamer that I was watching said this at one point, and they said that like the original Super Mario Brothers has one of the best tutorials in gaming, and it's just the first level. The first level it has everything you need to learn about. It has power-ups, it has stomping on enemies, it has like invincibility flowers, it has dying to bottomless pits, it has hidden items. It has literally
Did you
like
say
everything.
Invincibility flowers? Because that is not a thing.
Invincibility stars.
And fire flowers. Yeah.
Fire flowers. Yes, I conflated the two of those. Called out instantly.
Wow.
But like it does. It has everything you need to learn about the game in the game. Like there isn't really something that comes up later on. And obviously that formula changes a little bit as the Mario games progress, but like even still, like every first level in a Mario game functions as a pretty good tutorial without there being this is your tutorial.
Right.
So I think I don't know. I think they could have done something a little bit better. And again, just like stuck with, the problem was like, you have too many elements. I think you don't need to have different elements in every single level of your game. That is a huge flaw, I think, of this game.
Yeah.
A couple of other really quick things about that interview with Kitchen. He says that, so I talked about like kind of the development timeline being crunched. In that same interview, he talks about the process and how he actually got a call from Acclaim. And this is really interesting. A few days before the first episode of The Simpsons actually aired.
Oh, and wow.
They asked him, and this is a quote from him, to take a look at the property with an eye towards building a game. The series had begun as a short on the Tracy Ullman Show, but it hadn't yet debuted on its own as a series. Even after the first few episodes, there was such a strong backlash to the off-color content that it was unclear how big the series would ultimately become. He goes on to say, in any event, I did love working on the property. It was an honor to meet the executive producer, James L. Brooks, and Simpsons creator, Matt Groening, during the concept phase. I am forever grateful to Greg Fishbach, that was, I think, the CEO of Acclaim at the time, for having faith in us to include us in the project. So, a couple of things to glean from that interview. The game was in development well before the arcade game. I didn't mention this on the last episode, even though we asked the question a ton, but I found the answer. The arcade game began development in February of 1990, at least according to Simpsons Wiki. I don't know how I missed that initially.
Okay. So that means that it would have been started development in the middle of the first season.
Right.
But I think makes total sense.
But I think it's safe to say that Space Mutants was being worked on before the arcade game. If that Gary Kitchen is telling the truth, that he got that call because the first episode aired in 1989. So like, this would have been the first game that would have been developed at the time, which is kind of interesting. I also think the name drop of Groening and Brooks from Kitchen is telling that they at least had some level of involvement, even if it was just an early meeting, a meeting early on, because that's a question that I've had, right? Of like, how much level of involvement do the showrunners or writers and things like that have on some of these games? And I think just knowing that he met with them is I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, and it was early enough that they're not, I mean, well, James L. Brooks was a huge already, but like Matt Groening especially, like, it wasn't like they weren't dealing with a gigantic hit yet in the way that we would understand it. So I guess it would make sense that they want to be a little more, they probably will be willing to be a little more protective of their new property, and would want to be a little bit involved, at least in making sure that like they trust who's going to be doing what seemed to probably be the first Simpsons game at that point.
Yeah. It is also interesting that like this being the first concept for a Simpsons game, like how it kind of came to be, where it's like the first level is very like Simpsons heavy, and then the rest of it just is not as much. So it is kind of interesting. A couple other real quick tidbits, fun tidbits from that interview. So Barry Marks, I mentioned him before, was hired to work on this game due to the crunch in the timeline for release. Kitchen credits Marks with coming up with the X-ray glasses, which they say they adapted from, quote, the crazy advertisements on the last page of comic books.
Sure,
There was always an ad for the glasses which could see through the girls' clothes at school, which we knew was something that Bart would love.
I hate that, but it's true. Like, I hate it, but it's 1,000% true.
Yep. Barry Marks goes on to work on Escape from Camp Deadly, Bart versus the World, Bart versus the Juggernauts, and Bart versus Radioactive Man. He's only credited as the writer, though, for Space Mutants. That said, he did actually write for an episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which was Troll Bride, but unfortunately he died shortly thereafter. So he actually has a in memoriam, I think, on that episode. So
wow, that was the first season episode too. That was really early. Interesting.
I know you have a affinity for Sabrina, so I figured.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, what a cool connection.
I already mentioned the kind of critical response to this, and I already mentioned what the two top grossing games of the year in 1991 were. So yeah, I think that kind of covers pretty much everything there is to cover with background stuff. I mean, we've talked about the game a little bit in depth, but I think we can like really dive into the game at this point.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I saw the notes and I think we maybe touched on it with like the critics, like that it was sort of divided where a lot of people really loved it and a lot of people really hated it. And I feel like nowadays, I mean, I feel like the reaction whenever Space Mutants was brought up online, when we've posted about it, and anytime I've looked around Reddit, it's just people complaining about how hard it is and they couldn't get past first level. Like I've seen a million people say that.
So many people say they couldn't get past the first stage.
Including
so many
me.
people.
I never did. I couldn't. I tried it. I had access to save states and walkthroughs online and everything, and I couldn't do it. I literally couldn't. I even knew what I had to do, and I couldn't. And I will say I had a blast watching a walkthrough or playthrough with someone who clearly had played it a million times and knew all the rhythms of the game, because then they just could do everything flawlessly and expose all the secrets that I absolutely never could have done. But it's like, I don't know. I don't feel like that's a mark of a good game if I try to play it and have more fun watching like someone else who's basically a professional at it play it than me doing it at all, you know?
It's funny because like, I think it's interesting because there was some reviews that like talked about how like, oh, the first stage is great, but then later stage, or maybe it was Kitchen himself who talked about how like later stages kind of were unpolished. It sucks because like so stage 2 it felt like one of the longest stages I've ever played in a video game.
Oh,
like
Jesus.
The mall is so fucking long. But I had an absolute blast in that stage.
Okay.
There's actual fucking platforming elements. That's why. The first stage really is what feels like that point and click adventure game. Once you get to stage 2, it's much more platforming.
So the first stage, what I will say is that like, the platforming stuff sucks. It's like really impossible to know exactly where you can jump and where you can't. There's a weird level of like depth too, where they try to mimic depth, which I think is cool and it feels a little bit innovative, but it was very inconsistent. And like sometimes you just walk on the grass. I like that there's a joke of like, there's grass that has a keep off sign, and that's like the one time that you can go off the map and go behind is to walk on the grass that you're supposed to keep off of. Like, I appreciate that as a joke, but they don't really utilize that aspect of it for anything clever. And there's places that I thought you could walk that you can't. What I do like about the first stage that I think latter stages are missing is that I do think that the first stage, there's an element of like exploration and like secrets that you can uncover that is not present after the first stage, in a way that like the first stage kind of wants you to backtrack. Like you're able, and like, you know, there's points that you are able to like use a key to warp back and forth between the beginning and the end of the stage too. So you could like collect spray paint or items and then go back earlier and spray paint stuff at the beginning. Stuff like that.
I didn't fucking know that, Derek.
Oh, I had no idea.
I had no idea what the keys were for.
Yeah. I forget. I think it's like maybe the retirement home or something like that. Like one of the later buildings, you can use a key. So there's a bunch of stuff. I don't know how much of it you unlocked. The guy I watched unlocked literally everything. There's the key you can use to warp back and forth. If you go back to you know how the Space Mutants movie theater at the beginning has like 2:00 and 4:00 for showtimes.
I did, yeah. I did know that.
If you go back to the theater when the timer is exactly 2:00, a Boy Scout will come out of the theater, and you can spray paint them to, you know, get your score up or whatever. You can use the whistle at the retirement home to get Grandpa to show up at the window and throw a bunch of money at you. Mm-hmm. But if you use the whistle anywhere else, it just calls a dog to attack you. If you use it specifically at the right spot in the retirement home, Grandpa will give you a bunch of money. You can use the rocket to fire it at Barney's Bowl-O-Rama sign, and it'll make it.
I did know that one. Yep.
And you can use the coin at the payphone, and it'll give a prank call to Mo. And then Mo will come out to attack you and you can spray paint him. However, an interesting thing about that is that I think they change the prank call that Bart does between consoles. In the NES one, the joke is Oliver there? Oliver clothes off. And at least it's either the Genesis or Master System, or maybe both. The joke is I am a dope, like Mr. Adope. Yeah. I am a dope.
So that's actually in the NES version too. Like they're both in.
What? Really?
Yeah. It's like I don't know if it's randomized, but you can get I think both of the. I think there might even be a third one in the NES, but I might be misremembering that.
I mean, that's cool though. I didn't. But that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that I love about the first stage that I think is really missing later on. Because later on, I feel like the secrets you open are just like power-ups or whatever, things to find. The first stage, I was like, oh, wow. They are actually making a game in the world of The Simpsons and playing with Simpsons references and Simpsons characters and finding creative ways to have cameos. You even get you can get the Jebediah Springfield statue to talk to you, which then sets up finding Jebediah Springfield's heads as power-ups later, which itself is a reference to the Telltale Head episode from season 1 when Bart cuts off the head of the Jebediah Springfield statue. That's the kind of shit that I love. That's the kind of thing that's, that is missing from the arcade game. As much as I enjoy it, there's like no Simpsons references in that game. This game in the first stage is chock full of them. Like that feels like, and I think if it was a point and click adventure in Springfield, that stage would have been really, really fun, because every time a fun little secret revealed a Simpsons character or a reference to a Simpsons recurring gag, I loved it. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I agree with all that. And I think that really if you were to remove stage 1 from this game and then remove Bart out of it, it would 100%, you could just have it just be like a really tough platformer.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't,
any game.
You
it
would
wouldn't
know
have
no
to be a
different.
Simpsons thing at all. Yeah.
Wouldn't have to be a Simpsons game. Really the only thing in later stages, there's a couple of like little things here and there that like pop up, like a lot of the bosses. Krusty Land is a big, but even like the clowns that are there, like they're just random ass clowns, which also, since we're kind of just going,
let's just
full steam ahead.
Yeah.
One of the things that frustrated me about this game is the way it teaches you things and then completely forgets what it teaches you. And what I mean by that is in stage 1 and stage 2, there are people walking around, right? And you use your X-ray glasses to see if those people are space mutants. Cool. Makes total sense. If you jump on the head of someone who's not a space mutant, you lose a life. Makes sense. If they walk through you, because like you're not jumping on them because you don't want to kill someone who is not a space mutant, because you don't want to lose a life, nothing happens. When you get to Krusty Land, which I for some reason titled the Carnival, I just realized in my notes, whatever. When you get to Krusty Land, the clowns deal damage to you.
Yeah.
Like that infuriated me because I was like, am I supposed to be jumping on these guys? Am I supposed to be avoiding them? Like it felt like a mean trick to like make you lose a life, and I did not like that.
Yeah.
There's a couple of moments like that in the game where there were some mean tricks. When you get to the museum stage, which is stage 3, there's another moment where you have to. So there's lasers and shit like that are set up throughout the museum.
So funny.
I kind of like that element in the platforming. Again, doesn't make sense for a Simpsons game, but I have this. If you scroll down in the outline, you jump over. There is a specific spot that you're supposed to land on that is like highlighted red. And when you get to the section, once you do it, it makes sense. Like the places that are highlighted red, you're supposed to jump on, even though the lasers throughout the stage are red and you're supposed to avoid those. So like, what the fuck? Yeah. But also I jumped over the laser and just into one of the places you're like, that's not one of the red highlighted tiles, and just fell into a bottomless pit and died, even though there was floor there. It was just like, and it took me a couple of attempts to even learn like what I was like, what? I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then I realized, oh, you're supposed to land on this red dot. You're not supposed to avoid it. You land on that. And then I was like, okay, now that I've landed here, I guess I can keep going. I jumped and I died again, because then you're supposed to wait for another one to light up. It was infuriating. Yeah. That part sucks. That destroyed me. I was like, and the other thing, and we didn't even talk about this, the thing that is most diabolical about this game, when you die, like you run out of lives, you go back to stage 1. Yeah. Like you don't go back to the beginning of the stage. You go back to stage 1. So, like, there's no way I would have beaten this game without using save states. Like, no way.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone... I'm sure... I mean, I know that people did, because gamers are fucking unhinged. But normal people could not do this. It's...
I mean, it is wild. So we could just run real quick through some of the stages. So we talked in depth about the streets of Springfield. Some of the locations there, we already talked about Moe's Tavern. There's Mel's Novelty Shop, which I guess is a reference to... No, Mel is later in The Simpsons, so that's not anyone.
Mel. Yeah.
The retirement home, Quickie Mart. Mm-hmm. Bart's skateboard is kind of a location, because it's the only time in the game where you have like that element.
Oh yeah, that's so funny that they don't bring back the skateboard ever. Like there's no recurring elements at all in this game. It's so funny.
And that was a fun little mini game, but it was also kind of annoying. Mm-hmm. You also get we mentioned the Jebediah Springfield statue, and then you also, this is where you learn that like Krusty posters give you 1-ups. Like I didn't know that. I thought it was just a collectible thing, but then I started collecting them and I was like, oh, that's how you survive in this game.
Yeah.
And then of course the other element is, as you kill space mutants, you they drop little letters that spell out one of the members of the Simpsons family in each stage.
Yeah.
The first stage is Maggie. If you get all of their letters, they will help you when you fight the boss.
Yeah.
At the end of the stage.
I like the idea. I think that is a clever idea of like, it's a collector's quest thing, but it also makes sense in universe of like you're collecting evidence of the Space Mutants to convince your family members to come and help you, and then by the end of the game, they're all there to help you because everyone believes you.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. It is weird that it's just like you just spell out their name. But...
It is weird, and it makes it funny because it makes it like Maggie was the hardest one to.
She was.
Or I guess
Although I will say...
no, Maggie, Homer, and Marge all have 5 letters, don't they? Wait, no, Maggie has 6 letters.
Yeah, Maggie's 6.
Maggie is the hardest one. The baby is the hardest one to convince. Lisa is the easiest one to convince.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense that Lisa would believe Bart based on it doesn't matter. It's just funny because it's all just based on the number of letters in their name is all it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say though, Maggie is probably the most helpful. I think her fighting the first. So the first boss is Nelson. Right? It is Nelson.
And Maggie drops the bowling balls on him.
Drops bowling ball. I don't know how she gets them, but she does. And that's fine. That's fun. The next stage is the mall. And here...
What is happening in the mall? It's like a surrealist nightmare in this mall.
It is, and I kind of fucking love it. It's not Simpsons at all, but I can't tell you. I have such conflicting feelings about this stage because it's the surrealist nature of it is fucking rad to me. It's also weird and ugly a lot of the times, which I hate. It doesn't make any sense. There's a part where there's disembodied, like, you know what it is? It's because there's a magician and then a magician's assistant at some point or something like that.
I guess that's the idea. And the magician is an alien making things move. Because there's like floating candy, giant candy. And then there's also shoes that are walking on their own. And there's like rabbits coming out of hats, and you have to steal the hats from the rabbits.
There's sawed in half women that are like jumping around at some point. And I couldn't figure out the connection there. But I will say I got in a fucking rhythm in this level, man. I was like trucking through some of the platforming. I actually think the platforming in this stage is probably some of the most interesting.
You can see that.
In the game. It's also very, very difficult. And also, I found out there's some fucking secrets that I didn't know about that could have helped me make things a lot easier. So that's fun.
Wow.
But also, there's 3 mini-boss fights in this stage.
Yeah.
Why?
And it's confusing because it's like, I don't know, is this the one where like a couple of times someone that just like looks like Skinner is there, I think, a couple of times?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. It's really weird.
He's like there's like a hat salesman, I guess. Oh, that's right. I forgot to mention. So in this, every stage, the Space Mutants need a different item. This one, the Space Mutants need hats to fuel their machine. So you need to use your hands and your boyish wits to ensure they don't get what they need.
The first level was just purple things.
Purple things.
And as long as they weren't purple, they were fine. It's so weird. It's so random.
Here's another element of the game teaching you something and then punishing you for it. So you have to get hats off. You can get hats off of people's heads, right? If you don't time it right, you can land on the head of someone that you took their hat off. And if you land on the head of someone who's not a space mutant, you lose life.
It's stupid.
It's so cruel. It's so cruel. Yeah. That element is unnecessarily difficult. It does not need to be there. Also, apparently the boss in this is Miss Bots, who is like the babysitter bandit.
Weird choice, but she was a villain in the show at that point, so I guess it makes sense. I hate Marge in this level because she just like throws a little tiny dot and that does nothing. Like
I don't know what she was supposed to do. She did not help me.
She didn't help me at all.
Sometimes her dot hit the briefcase or the luggage, and it kind of helped, but also it kind of messes you up because you need the luggage to throw back up.
Yeah.
She almost was kind of making it harder, I felt like.
Really weird. I don't understand what she was even doing. What was she throwing?
No idea.
Really bizarre. Also, this level is another case where it's a little bit different in the Genesis, in the Sega version, because the store names are all totally different. Yeah, in the NES version, they're not anything interesting. It's like one of the shows, like The Real Big Show is the name of a store, and Laptop Shop. Like none of them are like, and Pork Chop Shop. Which makes sense because, Homer liked pork chops a lot at the time. And they eventually phased that out. And stuff was like 52% off, which I thought was kind of funny because that's such a weird number. In the Sega version, there's stores like Wicked Excess, the Tam O'Shanter Connection, the Brushes Are Coming, the Big Shoe, the Red Shop. It's so weird.
I will say the Big Shoe is in the NES version as well.
Oh, it is. Okay,
I do remember that one. That is when you're fighting the guy and he's in the Big Shoe, I think.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Missed that. But the Brushes Are Coming is such a weird name.
That's so. I need to. Okay, when I play through this again, I'm going to play through it on the Genesis version just to check it out. Yeah, I mean, as a game in a video, or as a stage in a video game, I thought that this level is really difficult, but like had some really fun platforming elements. I wish it did a better job of teaching you what to do. But that's just the case of this game.
Yeah, it definitely at least seems more like a platformer in that level than the first one does. There's like the point and click elements are gone in this one. Yeah.
And then we get to Krusty Land, that's stage 3, where the Space Mutants need not hats, they need balloons to fuel their machine at this point. And I said that you need your slingshot and boyish wits to ensure that they don't get what they do. I actually really like this stage too, being quite honest, like in terms of the platforming elements. Again, I already talked about the freaking clowns that annoyed the hell out of me. And yeah, I mean, it's a boring looking stage on the NES. I'm betting the Genesis version looks a lot better, but
the mini games are cool. I like
the mini games are fun.
Mini games in it. I thought that was really clever.
And there's a lot of like, there's so many secrets in this game. We're not going to talk about all the secrets because some of them I don't even understand. I think it's just like initials for people who worked on the game or something that happened.
Gotcha.
Which is cool. I think that's fun, but like that doesn't really matter that much to me. But yeah, the mini games were kind of cool. I definitely did like some of the dart mini games a bunch of times, even though like you don't really win that much. I think you win like extra coins and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I did have fun with those. And then there is this moment where you're in this, speaking of surrealist, you're in like a tent and you get to go into Krusty's big ass mouth.
It's so weird because it's like, there's like this Dizzy Doors section. I guess it's like a fun house with Itchy and Scratchy there, which I thought was fun. But yeah, then it's just like Krusty's creepy head is in the background, and then it like you go into another room and suddenly it's huge and it just like gets bigger, and then you go into his mouth. And his eyes follow you. So like, what is it supposed to be other than creepy? It's so weird.
No idea, but inside of his mouth is just a bunch of coins. So
sure,
there we go.
Sure.
The boss for this stage is Sideshow Bob, which that's fun.
No, I love that. Yeah, I think that was great.
That was a fun boss fight, and Lisa's the helper here,
which I think is appropriate if you're facing Sideshow Bob. I like that a lot.
They nailed that. Yeah. I actually don't have too many complaints about this level. This stage actually I think is probably one of the least egregious, but it doesn't. I think on the Simpsons scale, it's like much lower on like it's like a 3 on the Simpsons scale, and then on like the actual fun gaming scale, it's like a 5 or
There's
6. There's
definitely more variety in this level than there is in the other ones. So.
And it doesn't feel as punishing. The other cool thing is like there are some fun little secrets, although they're wrapped in this annoyance thing. So like there's this big high dive ladder that you can climb up. At the top there's a kid or a clown, I don't know if it's a kid or a clown, throwing bombs down at you, which is very tough. But you can jump off of it onto the strongman test. You can hit that, and if it goes all the way up and hits the bell, you get like a bunch of coins. So
that's so fun. Yeah, I love that stuff. Fun. That's really cool.
That's really cool. Then we get the Natural History Museum.
Oh my god, this like time travel place, like it's so weird.
I don't know. I will say some of the backgrounds look really fucking cool. I posted about this on Twitter. There's one point where you're in like the forest area, and I swear it looks like Endor from like Star Wars.
It doesn't look like the same game at all. It does not. It does not at all match the aesthetic of this game or the Simpsons. Like the Sega version like makes sense. It looks like, it looks like a fake forest, but this game, it is like they just like took the background of another.
It's so
like
wild,
they took the background of a Return of the Jedi game and stuck it in here. It really does look like that.
It's so wild. In this one, they need exit signs. The aliens need exit signs. They're just they're phoning it in like at this point.
They really are.
And you get a gun in this one, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's a dark gun, but whatever. At first I was like, oh, you just get a gun? Wild.
So funny.
But yeah, this one also I think had some really good platforming sections, except for that hidden death floor. One of the things I did like about this in terms of platforming is there's some timed elements for like jumps. I really liked learning the timed jumps in this one, where it was like the lasers like going up and down. You can like learn the patterns there, and they pretty much stay the same. So it was kind of nice to be able to figure that out. But then they would throw in like an alien coming some of the time, so you had to like, you know, piece that together. There's some fun moments where you're like riding on alligators.
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
For some reason. And then there's like the Egyptian portion, which I don't understand.
I guess it's
like,
a natural history museum, so they have mummies and now they're alive.
Well,
what's not to understand?
I get that part of it, I should say. What I don't understand is like collecting the onks.
Yeah. I don't
and
get
it
that
raises a pillar. And then you lower the pillar, and I guess that's maybe I just didn't like know that you had to do that to progress, but like I don't know why I had to do that. I assume it's to progress, but it wasn't explicit.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course not. Nothing in this game is explicit ever. Yeah, I guess they were trying to go for some Indiana Jones type stuff with that side of it. Maybe like here's some relics, and you use that to open walls. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
I like that he fights cats sometimes in that section too, along with
that
the
is fun. That is fun. There's also some snakes that just kind of like chill there and they get in your way. And then there's a dinosaur that's like a mini boss.
Yeah.
That I had to look up. I had to look up how to fight because remember you're talking about like the different places, like you could go further in the back, like the background. You have to go further in the background in order to actually fight that dinosaur. I spent so much time trying to figure out what I was supposed to do to fight the dinosaur when it was literally just like you have to jump on like something that's in the background to jump on its head. It makes no sense.
It's also like a space dinosaur because like it's like suddenly nighttime, but it looks like it's like on an asteroid or something. It's so weird. In the history, I mean, this is the coolest fucking natural history museum I've ever seen. I would love to go here. This place seems like an absolute blast. Like who's funding this place? I don't know what the budget is, but it's unreal, man.
I will say again, I think I really do like the platforming elements in this stage. I think that there's some really unfair parts of it. There were parts where I was like just clipping through platforms that I should have been landing on, and that was annoying. But it was fun, but also again, nothing Simpsons about it. The boss is
Marvin Monroe. It looks nothing like him. I didn't know who it was at first until I looked it up afterwards. It's a really bad rendition of him. I think it's fine to have him because they fucking like would love throwing him out in the early days before Matt Groening was like, stop using this guy. I hate him. But so it makes sense for him to be in it. I just wish that, and I like that. Doesn't he use like electric related things too? So like that makes sense. So I liked that. I just wish it looked a little bit more like him at all.
Except the way that Homer helps you, because Homer's the helper in this level, is by dropping, according to GameFAQs, whatever that I looked up, he drops wet towels that like stop the electricity, which it's like...
That's how that works, sure.
I guess, sure. Yeah, whatever. Oh, God. And then the final stage, the nuclear power plant, stage 5. It's a mess. That stage is a mess, in my opinion.
Why is it suddenly a maze? It's literally a maze now, out of nowhere.
I don't know.
This game's never been a maze.
I don't know. They literally just were like, what do we do next? Oh, every stage has to be different? I guess this one's a goddamn maze. Like, I really don't know.
You don't even fight anybody. There's no final boss.
There's no it's so lackluster. The ending of this game is completely lackluster. I like the idea that all of the Simpsons, so every single member of the Simpsons family is there, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And they all do something different.
Yeah,
like,
that's
to
true.
help you.
Yeah,
Cool.
Lisa contributes combinations for doors. Marge at certain points can take the rods you've collected down to the rod room, so you don't have to go all the way down there, which, by the way, it's so funny because like when they have the little clip of like a character opening the doors and turning and giving the rods, it's like silence except for like the ominous glow of the rods. So to see the door open and see Marge just standing there with her hands clasped, like smiling with this ominous like radioactive glowing in this dark room as a door opens in front of her and it just sits there for a while. It's like such a weird look. It's so strange, but I love it.
Yeah.
And it's just like so ominous. But she does that. I love Homer. Like, you could summon him with donuts and he like drops down.
That's fun.
And just clears the room basically of enemies. But then like, so did you figure out how to get the final rod on your own? Because I never would have.
No.
Yeah. Because it's just Maggie's pacifier for some reason.
Yep.
How would you ever guess that? There's no clue pointing to that.
It is funny that we have a theme from like the arcade game to this, where it's like Maggie's pacifier is like a central object in the game. But
yeah,
it was not intentional. That was not intended to be related like that. I can guarantee that.
Yeah.
But like it is. Yeah, I had to look it up. I had no idea. I was like, I just don't know where this is. This last level is just such a freaking mess. And like the platforming sucks. Navigating the level sucks. Like everything about this level. And it's the power plant. Like, it should be a Simpsons level that like is cool and good, and it's not.
Or at least like radioactive monsters that Bart has to fight or avoid or something like that. It's really strange. What if it, and like, I mean, not that like the plot of this game ever made sense, but it's like at this point the Space Mutants need radioactive rods, right? And that's why you're collecting them. Which but then it's like, oh, we just put them back, and now the Space Mutants are like, oh no, he's defeated us. It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah. Why? Okay. You set up these Space Mutants. Why are they not the final boss? Like, it's so frustrating that they're not the final boss. Like, it's so annoying.
What I like, the one thing I will say, I like the comedy of the Space Mutants just being like, this kid beat us, but he is pretty cool. I guess we'll peace out, and we're gonna honor him and put his face on Mount Rushmore. Like, that is a funny ending.
It is funny.
But I think you still could have had that ending even with Bart like fighting like a radioactive Space Mutant at the end,
Yeah, I agree. I really did not like the last stage in this game. Like, truly. It was frustrating. It didn't have any of the Simpsons elements that would have been fun, with the exception of like all the characters. And the platforming, like I said, just sucked. Like, it was just annoying.
Yeah.
One thing I will note, I'll just go through kind of like the final, what the aliens do say.
It's funny.
It is kind of funny because they're like, that Simpson boy defeated us. We have failed dismally. And then the other one is, you have to admire the boy's courage and luck. We must honor our foe. We must show our respect for his victory. I have an idea, sir. And then, like you said, it cuts to them going on vacation and stopping at Mount Rushmore. And this really, on the NES version, it's kind of freaking cool. Like, the NES version of Bart's head on Mount Rushmore is like kind of wild. It's almost 3D. But
yeah, it does look really cool. I mean, I hate Mount Rushmore. It's like a horrible atrocity that it exists in America. But I guess if it's already defaced, then the Space Mutants can deface it further. It looks really fucking cool.
It would have been better if they just like put all of the Simpsons family up there, and then it would have got rid of the the
colonizers
and the genocide enablers and all the racists. So anyway,
because all the Simpsons participated in defeating the Space Mutants, so like they all deserve to be up there.
Yeah, I will say too, in the NES version, at the end, Marge's dress is not the right color. It's red, and then Lisa's dress is not the right color. It's green.
And Maggie is white.
Is dressed in white. It's all weird.
Yeah.
You could tell they were just like, all right, we're done. And Homer's kind of should have a face, but doesn't. It's really creepy.
It's really funny. I had read somewhere, I don't know if you found this anywhere, so I don't know if it's true or not, but I had read somewhere that like at least there was an early development, there was an idea to be able to play all the Simpsons family. But I think that got tossed out really quickly because they knew there wouldn't be time, and or Bart Mania meant like, why not just focus on Bart? But I don't really remember where I read that, so I don't know if that's true or not.
I didn't see that in like the interview with the developer. I wouldn't be surprised, just given like what the arcade game did. It's entirely possible that they scrapped that because of like the time constraints. They're like, well, we're not going to program other characters. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
But I could see I could see a different game existing where that's the case, I should say. I didn't come across that though.
I mean, to be honest, that's actually kind of a good segue, because I feel like my sort of grand take of this game, ultimately, we talked about all the gripes of it. My grand take of it is that I think like there actually is a version of this that I think could be kind of cool. Like, if you wanted to remake a good version of Bart versus the Space Mutants, I think you could utilize the family more and have all the family be playable. And I think that you could really emphasize some of the point and click elements at certain points, and smooth that out. Cause I do think that there's like some innovative things in this game. Maybe innovative is the wrong word, because other games were doing it, but like there is something to the weird fusion of point and click stuff in that first stage, where you can go in and buy toys and stuff that you can then use to interact with the world, that then pulls in other Simpsons characters and Simpsons references to do something kind of funny. Like that seems like a really good like formula for a Simpsons game. And I'm sure that like the Simpsons game later, like once you get into like Xbox and stuff like that, does some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But for a retro style Simpsons game, I'm sort of surprised that more games weren't doing that, unless we play some of these and we find that they do. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe or maybe not. But at least for this game, I felt kind of inspired by that, because I'm like, I can see you doing a platformer style Simpsons game if you really like were able to kind of tighten the screws on some of this stuff and let Bart interact with, because that's the whole thing that makes Springfield so interesting and makes The Simpsons so interesting. Or one of the things that does is having this really fleshed out world of like weird, fun, silly characters and gags and references that you can then reference and turn on its head and find ways to interplay that with gameplay in a game. And when this game does that, it's really fun. It just doesn't do it. It really only does it on the first stage. And you know, the mechanics of how you do that is really, really bad and hard. So like I kind of wish that someone would make an attempt to like remake this game, but it would be like a full overhaul of so many things about it, you know?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I agree with all of that. I think, so I texted you earlier this week and I was like, I have a hot take about this game.
Yeah. What's the hot take?
And it started out that I actually kind of really like this game.
That's so fucking weird. But I also kind of get it. There are elements of it that are like kind of really fun and interesting and different.
But here's the thing. And this is where I think as we've talked through it, I've realized this stuff about it. Like I've play a lot of games where it's like, especially where you have to learn, like train yourself, right? Here's the thing. I was cheating the whole time technically, because I was using save states. So like if I didn't have save states, this game would have been obnoxious as hell. And I would have absolutely like just despised it. Because of the save states, I was able to kind of like learn the patterns and learn the jumping and stuff like that, and like actually got like good flows going on in some of the levels. And when that happened, I was like, okay, I can kind of see the fun of some of this platforming. Here's the thing though. Everything you said is true. The stage that I like the least is the first stage, as a like pure gameplay stage. And expecting like a platformer, because there's like no platforming.
The gameplay sucks in the first stage, to be clear. Everything I like about it is like in concept, but not in execution.
No, but like also I think, I agree with what you were saying though, about like the fact that it is the most Simpsons like of all the stages, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think it is you could do a really fun Simpsons game just out of that first stage. But like once you get into the places where like I was having the most fun, there's nothing about it that felt like it was The Simpsons. Like there just wasn't. And the fun I think wouldn't have existed again if I didn't have save states. So like I think I probably hate this game.
Yeah. I think this game sucks. It's just really interesting to talk about it.
It is. There's fun to be had with it. Again, if you're going to play it on an emulator, play it with save states. Like you have to do that. Like you just have to. Please, for the love of God, nobody out there go through the process of trying to play through this whole game. Not in that regard. I beg of you, because I don't want you to stop listening to the podcast. But like,
you can also log on to youtube.com and search for Bart versus the Space Mutants playthrough. There are plenty of them, and they are usually about 45 minutes long. And it's a fun little night when you got some Scotch whiskey with you, and just sip on that on your recliner and watch someone else do all the hard work for you and reveal all the secrets. And it's pretty nice.
That is true. And yeah, I think ultimately like it fails on all the levels, I think, of what makes an interesting Simpsons game. That said, I think like, I don't know. It sucks, but it's fine. Like that's, I think, my ultimate take.
It's not as, it's not given the reactions that people have had to the mention of the game, and given what I've read other people talk about since trying it out, I am sort of God, I don't know. I don't want to pretend like I don't want to be like a contrarian about it. I do think that it is a little bit overhated in the way that it is, but I also understand it because I think that the hatred comes from not being able to get past the first fucking level, and that is a pretty bad thing for a game.
It took me forever to get past the first. Like I'm not even joking. It took me forever.
I also don't think it's overhated at the same time. I think people are right for thinking that this game fucking sucks and blows and is the worst thing ever, because it's got to be because it's not fun until you like really figure out everything you have to do. And for some people, I think that challenge is fun. But for a lot of people like me, it isn't. So and it ultimately not worth it. But I do think this game is really fascinating at the very least.
I think yes, agree with that. I think too the frustration comes from the fact that like the frustration is in different. It comes at you in different ways. Like the first stage is frustrating because it's hard to figure out. The second stage is frustrating because it's just really difficult platforming. Then you have the fourth stage, which is frustrating because it's just a maze. Like you have all that stuff coming at you in the same game. I think that like leads you to just like having a really unsatisfying time with it at the end. Even though, like I said, I had a lot of fun when I was doing the stuff that I really liked in the game. So I don't know. Take that for what it is. I liked the stuff that I liked, and I disliked the stuff I disliked.
It's a very new. It's a very
great analysis.
Very nuanced. Well, you know what? That's what you get when you have a game where every single stage is a completely different game from the last game. You know, you're gonna like some and not like others. Makes sense.
Yep.
Before we wrap up, I have one little mini section.
Yeah.
I want to do that. I want to not instigate. I don't know. Initiate. I guess.
Let's do it.
And I didn't do this for last week, but I wanted to look and see what episode or episodes were airing around the time that these games came out. And it's going to be interesting for a lot of these games that they come out in this like the same year. So it's going to be like, this game came out a couple of weeks after the last one. So for the arcade game, I didn't do this for the last one. The arcade game, the closest episode that came out to when that episode was released, a few days within it, was Bart's Dog Gets an F from season 2, which is the episode. I think the only episode that Tracy Ullman guest stars in, and it is the one where Bart's dog, or Santa's little helper. I don't know why I called him Bart's dog. Santa's little helper is like very ill behaved and like tears up Homer's new like tennis shoes that he got that were really expensive, and tears up the quilt. And Lisa has the mumps as well in that episode, and he goes to an obedience school. So that episode's airing. No fun little connection to the arcade game there. For this game, for Bart versus the Space Mutants, on the exact same day that this episode hit the NES system in North America, the episode Lisa's Substitute was airing the same very day. Like, classic, well-known episode.
Wow.
If you're not familiar, that's the one with Dustin Hoffman as Mr. Bergstrom and I am Lisa Simpson.
I am Lisa Simpson.
Yeah. Note in it. So, very iconic episode. Absolutely nothing like this game in any way.
maybe iconic in a different way. The game is.
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
That's where we're at in Simpsons history. Like, that's what's airing at the time. I think that will also be very interesting to track.
And one of the things we did do in the first episode that I didn't do here was like the number of characters introduced. And the reason I didn't do that here is because this game released a month after the arcade game, so it's like
the same.
If you want to, it's going to be the same. So if you want to hear that and you haven't listened to episode 1, go back and check that out. We do have a little bit of that. But yeah, moving forward, I love that idea, Derek, of doing like what episode is closest to it, and then we'll keep tracking like. How the show is doing at the time, I think is going to be really interesting. Again, this was a month later, so nothing's changed.
Yeah, but that's going to keep, but I think what I'm using it for in the meantime, for these games that like come out within like weeks or months of each other, I just will watch the episode. It gives me a reason to watch a Simpsons episode that I haven't watched in a while. So I watched both Bart's Dog Gets an F and Lisa's Substitute today, and it was really nice because I haven't really watched much season 2 stuff in quite a long time. So
let's do that. I'm going to do that as well. So I will be watching those episodes too, but I think That is a lot longer of a discussion about this game than it probably deserves, but
hey, it's like the first console Simpsons game. I think it warranted a big conversation.
And listen, someone has to do it. I mean, not really, but
not really.
We decided to do it. Of course, if you do want to keep playing along with us, next month we are covering Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly, a darling little handheld game that is also probably not going to be a ton of fun. But you know what? I'm going to keep my hopes up. If our ideas are intriguing to you and you wish to subscribe to our newsletter, be sure to follow us on Instagram. We are at Simpsons Gaming Pod. You can also email us questions, corrections, or just Simpsons quotes you really like at simpsonsgaming@gmail.com. This podcast is a proud member of the Glitterjaw Podcast Collective. If you're looking for other queer media podcasts, you can check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com. Derek, where can folks find you online and listen to all of your other stuff?
Sure. Yeah, you can find me most active on Twitter at Derek B. Gale. I'm on other platforms under that name, or Dare Bear or Mr. Dare Bear. You can find my other podcasts that I also do with Glitterjaw. I've got Walloping Websnappers, where my co-host Doug and I do deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. And I do another podcast with Doug called Skreeonk, which is a Godzilla movie marathon where we're stomping through Godzilla's filmography. And then I also do Gimmicks with my co-host David, where we do where we look at the high concept and experimental structure breaking and gimmicky episodes of television. I do other stuff. You can find all those things by just looking me up on social media and seeing what I'm up to. What about you, Tommy?
Hell yeah. As for me, I am at Awkward Comma everywhere now. I'm at Awkward Comma on Twitter and Instagram. Nice. So go find me. I don't really post a lot on Instagram. You can check out my other show, Distant Echoes, a Star Wars podcast, where my partner Cass and I watch each episode of every Star Wars TV series in whatever order we please. And we just released, just a real quick plug, our episode covering the first 3 episodes of the newest season of The Bad Batch. And I can tell you that both of us teared up during watching that first episode and probably during recording. So listen to that, because we had a lot of fun with it and we love that show. Our incredible theme music was recorded by the band whose name you love to touch but you mustn't touch. That's right, Max Power. You can check them out on Instagram and Facebook at The Real Max Power Band. And remember, as always, tell your parents to listen to Lee Carvalho's potting challenge.
Or spray paint all your purple objects red.
And go to hell.
I just decided to do that on the fly.
I love it. Later.